PSGL is brought to you by Sim Racing Setups. Get your pro setups, unlock extra performance with the Pro F1 25 car setups created by the drivers in PSGL. Esports and stable setups for every track, quali, race and wet setups, optimal race strategies, free meta setup updates, as well as created by drivers racing in PSGL, pro support and compatible with Xbox, PlayStation and PC. All setups just $49.99. Get them from simracingsetup.com and use code PSGL for a 5% discount. See you on track. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside,
absolutely possible season.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakely will dive to the inside.
We're robust. We got our elbows out.
Ronar takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Jarno Watmere is your champion. Well, hello everybody, welcome back to PSGL. We're now returning to your screens for the final time on F1 25. It is set to be a blockbuster. The title is all decided. Jarno Watmere now crowned an 8 times PSGL champion. Of course, 7 times on PC and also once on the PlayStation as well. Record-breaking, history-making. He's done it all. Red Bull have also clinched at the same time the team's title. It's been outright domination from the first race onwards. And even despite a few slip-ups along the way in the last 2 encounters, Jarno still lifting the title aloft. George Morgan here back in the commentary box alongside me once again, Nathan Richards. And Nathan, we turn our heads to Yas Island as we now get set for a banger on Bonfire Night.
Certainly, and I think Abu Dhabi is kind of one of the perfect tracks to sum up a championship, to end everything off, and for some of the drivers it's a little bit like gloves off, nothing to lose, let's go for one last time. And of course we've seen Abu Dhabi, I think once before as a finale, and then of course featured towards the end of the season on multiple other occasions, and I'm sure we're going to have a great race here tonight with a very, very competitive grid as always. But of course, as we know, the championship is all decided. I suppose the only thing you can really look at is the battle for second and below, if anybody even cares, that is.
Well, I mean, there's at the moment 10 points separating Rasmussen and Burremand in the championship. We will take a little look at the race results from last time as well, folks, and also the standings as well at the same time, team standings as well, not to mention the calendar as we've been through it. Obviously now we're on the final round. It probably means very little, but a big thank you to every single one of you for joining us as well for this one, and thank you as well for your attention right through the course of this season. Obviously, first and foremost, I want to say a big thank you to TK as well, who unfortunately isn't here tonight. Obviously, we've got Nathan here this evening. TK unable to make it due to other prior engagements. Of course, last time he was away due to illness. But TK, we wish you all the very best, mate. This one's for you. As we now look ahead for what will, I'm sure, be an absolute classic. We've witnessed many great drivers come to the Furor. I suppose the big topic of discussion here, Nathan, right now is the return of Otis Lawrence and also Ulas Zildjian. Back after 2 race bans, these two, after fisticuffs back at Australia. Is that going to be put to bed now, or will it seep into this Abu Dhabi round?
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and make assumptions about it, but I'm sure they'll be as their normal selves, as we've seen throughout past seasons. Both Ulas and Otis, very aggressive drivers. We've seen that, with Otis ever since he kind of came in to PCF1 a couple of seasons ago. Ulas as well has taken a bit more of an aggressive style to his racing, so I'm sure they'll be the same as they always are. I don't think, though, quite to the extent of what we saw in Australia. A little bit toned down, but of course, for those as well, gloves are off. You might as well have one last fun race here around Abu Dhabi to end things off, which in terms of racing, you're either going to get a very dull Abu Dhabi or one of the best races you have ever seen. You never quite get the middle ground around here, do you?
Well, there's barely any elevation at this track anyway. Let's take a little look at it. In fact, here is the track map. Of course, broke ground back on May 20 or should I say 2007, 18 years ago now. Of course, it took 2 years and a bit to build, eventually managed to open up on October 2009, 16 years ago. 5.281 kilometers, 3.281 miles, 16 turns in total, with Yas Island, an artificial island in Abu Dhabi, named after the Arabian Bani Yas tribe and one of the largest tourism prospects in Abu Dhabi. Also houses the fastest roller coaster in the world as well, the Formula Rossa, which is said to be the fastest on record, and it is, of course, based in Ferrari World. I'll be heading there as well in December to host the Ferrari Sim Racing Series Grand Final. So there we have it. We're heading to Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a classic, and we can now go trackside. Now you're joining me and Nathan back again on your screens as now the cars get set to head out. 17 minutes and 15 to go in qualifying. Joris Krozen not wasting any time. He's the first driver to go out, but of course brandishing the intermediate set of tyres. We will be going through the standings after qualifying, folks, just before the race, just to give you guys some insight as to where the standings currently sit. Obviously the titles, like we have already said, have been decided as well. And if you want any further updates, you can of course go along to the PSGL social media channels at Premier Sim GL on Twitter, Instagram, and of course TikTok. Mainstay, of course, being Twitter. Big shout out as well to Sim Racing Setups, who provide all their support here to this championship, and you can in turn provide your support to them as well and get hold of those fantastic setups that are approved by the drivers that race here in PSGL, so make sure you check those out too. But we're now underway here, Nathan, and Joris Krozen returning to the track, and I must say a young man who has really flourished in recent weeks.
Yeah, certainly. Great to see Joris back up towards the top of things. Of course, his qualifying performance has been brilliant as of recent, but he's always been quick in qualifying ever since I've seen him on track here. Even back when he was in PCF2 a few seasons ago. But also some information regarding Julian Klaffenbach. Of course, pole last time out in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, will be taking a qualifying ban here for the final round. So he will be starting from 20th position, hence why he's already retired. So if anyone's thinking, what's happened to Julian? He has got a qualifying ban. So yes, it means there's a lot of work for him to do. Of course, last race, it was starting from the front. Now, he's got to do it all the way from the back of the field.
Yeah, wrote his name in lights, didn't he, after that qualifying pole position in the Las Vegas event. His first qualifying pole in PCF1 in history, and could not quite take it to victory in the race, because it would be his teammate Thomas Ronha who would muster up his second win of the season, and his second, of course, back-to-back, remember, of course, because the first one came back at Mexico, so it was sequential race wins for Thomas Ronha. But we now watch as Krozen makes his way through the, oh my goodness, getting caught on the curb as well. Some airtime there from Joris Krozen.
Of course, and that curb is an absolute killer, isn't it? How out of that first chicane down towards turn on, it is a horrible chicane and very easy to hop over the curb and end up launching yourself. And of course, side by side, that corner can also be quite treacherous. So I'm sure drivers will be keeping an eye when they head through there. And of course, there's no damage on the floors of the cars here or anything, so they haven't got to worry about damage in that aspect. Of course, if you had it on simulation, I'm sure there'd be quite a lot of damage to the floor of Joris Krozen's. Is it a graffiti style livery, would you say? I can't quite tell what it is from my view.
I get the sense there is a graffiti element to it. Otis Lawrence, who we're currently seeing on screen as well, we welcome him back, utilising more of a colourway that directly, I think, corresponds with the team he drives for, that being Alpine. As now Krozen sets in place a 132.454, despite rumbling over the curb and getting some lofty air time, managing to at least feel the time, not seeing invalidation off the back of it as now Otis Lawrence comes into the pits. We also welcome back Istvan Pukki, who will be lining up at Mercedes alongside Lucas Blakely once again. And Lucas Blakely, just while we're on the topic of it as well, Nathan, first points of the season scored last time out, only 2 against his name though this season.
Yes, certainly. It's not been a good season for Lucas Blakely. Same can go for Istvan Pukki, also with only 2 points finishes back in Kota on Australia. So, yeah, Mercedes seem not have really got off the ground at all well. Of course, back in the main sim racing season, I know that they didn't have Lucas Blakely, but they did a very good job, finishing P3 or P4 in the Constructors. So it just seems that things haven't gotten so well at the start here of F125, of course. Blakely only 1 point finish. And it could also be another difficult round for him here because he's never actually raced around Abu Dhabi in PSGL. He's taken part in all the seasons that we have done, but coincidentally, every time we're here, he's not started the race.
Yeah, well, Blakely last being a PSGL PCF1 champion back in season 31, and that was the precursor to him eventually becoming the F1 Sim Racing World Champion back in 2022. But it just feels like ever since then, it has been a cursed story for Lucas Blakely, though his attention, I think, has been slightly diverted by real-life motorsport, taking part in the GB4 Championship in support of the GB3 series as well, which, of course, then fires up young drivers to move through to FIA Formula 3 and maybe even FIA Formula 2, like we're seeing many new drivers, in fact, taking the direct route to FIA F2 as of late. But still, 12 minutes and 30 or so on the clock. Your only two retirees, Julian Klaffenbach with a qualifying ban, will not be taking part in anything else this session. Ismail Fassi, also retiree, looking to go from the back as well. He'll need to be on a huge recovery mission come the race. And therefore, I'd imagine you might try some outlandish strategies. But again, this might be a token to what we've said right through the course of this season, Nathan, both myself and TK, and obviously myself and you included, that many of these teams and drivers utilise PSGL and league racing as a whole as a method of pulling together data to obviously get ready for the brand new F1 sim racing season, because that is the prerogative. Make sure your drivers are ready for the big title race.
Yeah, definitely. It's a perfect preparation because pretty much most of the format of league racing is very similar to what we have in F1 sim racing, so it is a perfect chance for teams to get that data they need. Hence why we tend to see on the calendar the same tracks pop up every season, because we know and presume that they'll be heading onto the F1 sim racing calendar. So it is a really good time for teams to come together and start to figure out and plan out what sort of performance they have heading into the main season. Of course, nerves and the mentality changes when you're in that, that grand stage with all the rigs there and people watching on TV. But of course, you still get that initial data that you need beforehand of setups and strategies as well, because we've seen every game, strategies with tyres change so much. So you can't look at F1 24 and say, right, we'll do that. You need to change your strategy completely to what this game, gives and how this game works.
Yeah. Just to say as well, folks, I have popped in the track map for you as well, just in case you guys want it. Though I haven't seen any calls for it. We used to get calls for it all the time in the live chats in the past, and we didn't even have a whisper of it in the live chats here. So I don't know what's wrong with all of you. What is wrong with you? I have popped the track map in anyway for you guys. At the end of the day, it would have been the other way around years ago. You would have been pestering me for it, and I would have said absolutely not. But yes, 10 minutes and 30 to go. Jana Watmir, of course, let's talk to you about the story of how he managed to reach that precipice of being the champion once again for an 8th time in PSGL. Of course, it's been 2 wins this season, and dare I say it, many of you will say, well, George, that's not very much. Well, I can tell you that once he won the title with only 1 victory, I can tell you, in the past. But also racking together 7 podiums, which I would say has largely contributed to his season, and probably been the most important factor is his consistency, that nature of consistency, that aura of consistency. Spa-Francorchamps was that first win of the season, of course, and then later on it was Qatar, so didn't get his first win until 7 rounds into this season's championship. Prior to that, though, he did have 4 podiums in the space of the first 6 races, so he was in some real sharp vein of form, and 3 of them being P2s, and there were 3 of those in the first 4 races as well. Brazil, Texas and Zandvoort. 115 points. He's currently the only driver to break a century so far this season as well, Nathan. Not even Freddie Rasmussen has broken 100 points just yet, so it just goes to show the consistency is what pays.
Definitely, and I think another thing that goes into Jana Watmir's hands is his race pace and his race intelligence. We've seen on many occasions he started outside the top 10 or just inside the top 10, and he can still find his way to a podium or at least a top 5, and that just shows in the race he knows exactly when to pit, he knows what strategy to go for, and sometimes he'll go for something risky or something a bit different, and no matter what, he still manages to make it work. And I think that can also go to his engineering team as well, who help with those strategies and help with going for those risky decisions. But you could put many drivers into his shoes and they wouldn't do what he can do. So, the way he works through a race and dissects it down is also brilliant. So, there's many reasons why Jana Watmir can be the greatest, but, it's not always down to just winning every race, is it?
No, it's not largely. I mean, one obvious absence that we have noticed as well, folks, obviously only stepping in as a reserve this season, Angelo D'Ortenzio Nathan. We've got to talk about him because he has had a remarkable campaign this season. And I must say, I'm kind of disappointed in a way that he's not here for the finale, just on the basis of how good he has been and how often he's qualified in Q3. In fact, every single start he's had, he's made it to Q3, which I think is phenomenal.
It is. I mean, you have people that take part in the F1 Sim Racing Championship that don't get to Q3 often, so that just shows the level that Angelo has compared to some of the others here. And of course, without the fact, including the fact he's only 15, if he was 16 or over, he'd probably be entering his way into an F1 Sim Racing seat very soon. But of course, he can't do that until he reaches the age limit. So that is a big shame for Angelo. He's been halted back because of his age, and we saw that in the past with Alfie Butcher, with Otis Lawrence as well, how sometimes you think, well, they should probably lower that age for allowing drivers into a team, because we're seeing now many more drivers that are coming through at such a young age, something that back in 2020, for example, we never saw that often, did we? Most drivers are in their maybe 18, 19. Of course, we've got drivers on the grid that are into their mid-20s. So it is quite interesting how the grid has shifted, and we've got so many young talents being some of the quickest on the game.
Well, many were saying that we saw the last of it after Otis Lawrence came through, but I have to tell you, Angelo has definitely proven many wrong here as we now watch Otis Lawrence, speak of the devil, making his way through this next left-hander. Purple inside the first sector so far with a 16.816 and a 34.454 inside the middle sector. The Welshman on his return after the 2 race bans that he has sustained, after the contact he shared with Ulas Azildrim, both drivers being punished as a result of their infractions back at Melbourne. They now mark their return, this time here to Abu Dhabi, to mark the end of season 40 here in PSGL PCF1. Here comes Lawrence now to lay down the first official benchmark, we think, and it's a 1:21.186. Danny Berejnet, his teammate, goes second fastest, and the gap now shared by just over a tenth of a second. Fastest in the middle sector comes Freddie Rasmussen, as now we see Duncan Offland go third. Also Nicholas Longue on his return as well, second fastest. Rasmussen now making his way around the final corner, purple in the middle. He will go second fastest, 82 thousandths away from Otis Lawrence for now. Wilson Hughes, we welcome him back, and he'll be driving a Williams this evening, charting his way through the final corner, emblazoned in red and yellow. He's going to look to try and jump ahead of Lucas Blakely, but can't get past his former McLaren teammate, and slots himself down into ninth as former champion Barry Burremand pops into second.
Certainly, still many laps looking to come through as we see Alfie Butcher heading into the final quarter. We'll see what he can put onto the board. 18th currently up to the line, goes second fastest, only 3 thousandths separating himself and Otis Lawrence at the top. Next to come across the line will be the 8-time world champion Jarno Opmeer. What can he set on the board? Up to the line goes 8th, a nice banker lap for him. Then we have Thomas Ronhart, only 13th for 21.484 for him. Jake Benham jumps up into the top 10. And finally, Ulas Azildrim up to P4, just a couple of thousandths separating himself and Freddie Rasmussen between 4th and 5th. As we also have Tom Manley, who had an invalidation, so no lap for him on the board. But of course, joining him in the drop zone currently will be Tycho Hardy and Wilson Hughes. Of course, Wilson has been here 3 times in the past, but yet to score a point. So hopefully he can look to get a point or 2 on the board tonight.
3 thousandths of a second between the top 2 in this classification so far. Otis Lawrence with that 1:21.186 unstopped inside that first run that we have just witnessed, but we still have plenty of time before the end. I say plenty of time, actually. It's 4 minutes and 34, which isn't a great deal. They'll have to come in and go straight back out again. But yes, 3 thousandths between Otis Lawrence and Alfie Butcher. Butcher registering that 0.189. And then further back, we do have Barry Burremand, Ulas Azildrim on his return as well. And it's interesting to see the 2 drivers that were on double race bans. Now, both of them featuring inside the top 4 prior to the final runs that we're expecting to see here in qualifying. But just right now, just want to usher this in as well. The top 6 all within 98 thousandths. Viciously close here, Nathan.
It is, and Abu Dhabi is one of those tracks where we do tend to see very close qualifying times. Of course, it's only around 3/10 down to P15 being Thomas Ronhart. I think it's, yes, 3.98 separating the top 15. Very, very close indeed here for our drivers. And then, of course, Wilson Hughes and Tycho Hardy, they're a couple of tenths off of Ronhart. So, yet again, I don't think that's representative at all of their pace. I'm sure that they'll close in and be in and around the 0.4s and 0.3s as well. Tom Manley as well. We'll see him up in the top 10, I'm pretty sure. So very close timings here with around 3 minutes to go. A lot of drivers already clicking that retire button as they don't think they need to go out again. that being Burman, Rasmussen and Nicholas Longe, who sits in P6. But I'd say probably P9 down, probably would need to go out again. That'd be Jarno Opmeer all the way down to Tom Manley.
Yeah, great to see Longe back as well. By the way, we haven't seen him hit the heights or score points since that victory back at Brazil earlier in the season, but again proving that he does carry the talent in what has been a 2-podium run so far this season. Of course, back at Silverstone, finished in 3rd place in that very notorious Jarno Opmeer pit lane effort to make his way through and lay claim to victory in the British Grand Prix. Of course, fortunately for Jarno Opmeer, it didn't quite work out that way for him, ending up forfeiting the podium spot and finishing P4 as a consequence. But now we're seeing the cars venture out onto the track, not wasting any time. Ruben Pedreño is going to be the first driver heading back out onto the circuit. Jarno Opmeer retires as well from P9. That's relatively bold, Nathan.
It certainly is. So does Danny Brezhnev, and I'm sure Joris Krozen will as well. But that is very bold from Jarno Opmeer. Only 10th, separating himself, and, well, it's just over a 10th, separating himself and Ruben Pedreño, who's in 14th. So that is very risky there by Jarno Opmeer, but we'll have to see if it can work out. We've seen it before where they survived by one position, but we've also seen where people in P7 or P6 have retired and they've ended up in that bottom 5. So risks taken by Red Bull there for Opmeer, but I'm sure he'll be safe. I don't think he'd do that if he didn't think he would make it through. And of course, Pedreño, the first car out on track. Behind him we have Duncan Hofland as well, who sits in the top 10 currently. Would love to see him up into Q3, of course. P17 in the standings, not been the best season for Duncan Hofland, so we'll have to see what he can do over the course of this evening.
Yeah, well, there you can see Lucas Blakely, former PSGL champion and former F1 Sim Racing world champion as well alike. He's just making his way around the final sector now, getting set for the final runs here in Q1 to aim to try and solidify a place heading into Q2. Remember, the bottom 5 get departed from the session. I mean, I'd imagine Jarno probably feels slightly more confident knowing that Klaffenbach and Fassi have already taken a couple of spots away from the elimination zones. It basically means that it'll be the slowest 3 out of those of fielding lap times here, Nathan, that are going to be without a spot. So maybe that plays into Jarno's hand quite a bit.
Certainly, and I think something else adding on to the fact that there's only 3 going out is the fact that Klaffenbach and Fassi you'd expect to see up in the top 5, top 6 anyway. So that's 2 big heavy hitters already out of contention for Q2 and, of course, Q3 potentially, as we do have our final laps underway. The first car will be Ruben Pedreño, P14 currently, as he makes his way down towards turn 5. It's not been his best season either. He has had a podium, though, this season in Japan, but apart from that, only 4 other points finishes. So I'm sure once again Pedreño would love to be up into that top 10 later on, or at least up into the top 15 and fighting into Q2.
Well, it'll be Blakely now looking to set the first lap in place, with Pedreño further back, currently making his way through the S-bends as it stands. As we now watch Blakely head down through towards the left-hander at the end of this long straight, heading in towards turn 9 at the beginning of sector 3, and already we're seeing the sector times come in, and it is all green here for Blakely. It's all green as well for Ruben Pedreño. We're keeping our eyes peeled for any purple middle sectors. Nothing on show just yet. In fact, no one can go any faster than Jarno Opmeer inside that middle sector for now. He currently holds the purple middle sector. The purple final sector was held by Istvan Pukki, but here comes Blakely now to try and solidify his place heading into Q2. That's P9. That's a decent improvement there from him. Ruben Pedreño coming next as well. He goes 4th fastest. Great time there from Pedreño. Tom Manley goes 8th fastest as well. Here comes Thomas Ronhard coming through the final sector. Duncan Hofland with a great time goes 3rd. So now it's currently Fassi, Klaffenbach, Hughes and Ronhard, as well as Hardy. Jarno Opmeer on the bubble of elimination here, as we see. Also Pukki going into 3rd. Here comes now Thomas Ronhard. Wilson Hughes is eliminated. Where on earth is Thomas Ronhard? Is he through? Yes, he almost certainly is, with a first place finish at the end of that. A cracking lap from the Dutchman, 53 thousandths faster than Otis Lawrence, ahead of Alfie Butcher in third as well. Isfan Pukki in fourth. Duncan Offland in fifth, Barry Burremand in sixth, alongside Ruben Pedreño in seventh, with Ulas Azildrim, Freddie Rasmussen, Nicholas Longue rounding out the top 10. We have Tom Manley, Danny Berejne, Joris Krozen, Jake Benham, Lucas Blakely, and we said it was risky for Jarno Opmeer. He is eliminated here in the first session, ahead of Tycho Hardy, Wilson Hughes, Julian Klappenbach, of course, and Ishmael Fassi. The concerns, apparently, Nathan, were well-founded.
Certainly, and I was thinking maybe that is a little bit too close to being out of the comfort zone for Jarno Opmeer. It certainly wasn't, of course. He's now in 16th and will start near the back of the field. Of course, it doesn't matter. He's got the championship wrapped up, but once again, a little bit of a misjudgment from himself and the team over at Red Bull of not sending him out for that final run in the session. So he's got a lot of work to do now once we get to the Grand Prix later on. But we have a very competitive top 15 making their way through. Of course, Opmeer was only about 3/10 away from that top spot time, so it still proves that we have got a very competitive grid here tonight, and the lap times are very, very close. And I'm sure Q2 we're going to see another couple of drivers that we don't expect to see out because everyone here has the pace to make it to Q3, but of course we lose 5 of them in around 15 minutes time.
Yeah, well, the first out of the gate is Nicholas Longue, and hoovering up all of the marker boards on the outside as well. As you can see, he's just really breaking through them, smashing through the polystyrene, whipping the DRS sign as well, just for good measure at the same time, but is currently being closely followed by the car, I think, belonging to Joris Krozen, just in behind too, but I think Longue just having a little bit of fun. It's a little bit of styrophobia going on here in PSGL, something similar to what you would see in the EA Sports F1 Creator Series. Clearly, Nicholas Longue must be tuning in. But yeah, we're looking forward to seeing who's going to come out on top in this one. Obviously, do let us know, folks, who you think is going to be eliminated from this session. We really do want to hear from you. Nathan, where do you see this one going?
Oh, it's going to be a difficult one, isn't it? I think, yes, again, you're going to see the likes of Lawrence, Ronhart, Butchap up near the top. And then, of course, you've got drivers such as Blakely, Pedreño, who were nearly close to that bubble earlier on. They could be in a little bit of trouble, certainly. And I suppose you could say the same for the likes of Joris Krozen and Danny Berejne, but then again, we don't know what they've got in the bag because they didn't go out again at the end of Q1. So it's going to be a very interesting Q2 session, I believe. We're going to get a couple of upsets, I'm pretty sure, as we do have a couple of lap times getting underway. Joris Krozen will be first out, but we can see him breaking down the brake marker boards on the right-hand side into turn 1, so I'm sure this won't be a competitive time. And of course, the reason why they do move out the marker boards, if you're not sure, is because they want to get any sort of object out of the way. When they're heading down into the braking zone, they don't want to be hitting a marker board. And of course, as we know, these drivers take to the absolute limits of the track limits. And of course, for some reason, the track limits have the marker boards included in them.
That doesn't hurt either if you want to try and put one of your competitors off from setting a fast lap. And Krozen getting airtime once again off the race curb, coming up through out of Sector 1 through to Sector 2 proper. So once again, hitting the curb really hard. Full commitment there from Krozen, and now flying through turn 9 and into Sector 3 here and now. Looking to lay down the first time of this session. Already we saw Nicholas Longue heading into the pits. He's not the only one. Isfan Pukki had to do the same as well. Both drivers seemingly invalidating their laps. As now Krozen whips through the final sector. Already Otis Lawrence purple inside the first 2 sectors with a 16.9 and a 34.4, and it looks like it's going to be Krozen into the pits as well. No invalidation for him, but he's going to come in anyway. Here comes Otis Lawrence now, up towards the line, goes first fastest with a 1:21.504. Alfie Butcher will go second fastest. We'll also see Freddie Rasmussen go third. Next up comes Barry. He goes second, Barry Burremand. Then we have also Ulas Azildrim down in 6th as Ronhart goes 5th fastest. And Jake Benham also coming up around the corner. He will go 6th fastest with a 1:21.753. Lucas Blakely will come across the line for 8th as well. And last but not least, Danny Berejne into the pits. But his teammate Otis Lawrence holds all the cards up at the top. First lap's in, and it's Lawrence fastest here in Q2 so far.
Of course, and we're about 4/10 off what we saw in Q1, so this shows once again the drivers are on a used set of the soft tyres, so they'll go out in around 2 or 3 minutes time, get a lap in, and then of course I'll go out right at the end of the session to set their final laps in Q2. So many drivers there just getting a lap on the board, getting something down just in case they make a mistake or two, heading into their next couple of laps. Of course, Tom Manley down yet to set a lap on the board. So give it a couple of minutes, they'll all be back out again. We'll get our first representative Q2 laps on the board, and then of course it'll be the build up to the final laps, where we will see 5 drivers not go through the bottom 5. So 11th down to 15th will all be eliminated from the qualifying session.
Well, I mean, this has been the story of Otis Lawrence's season campaign. Just want to lay this down for you folks. 4 pole positions he has managed to muster. He's only had 2 podiums, Nathan. 2 podiums as Otis Lawrence, despite the 4 pole positions. And this just goes to show he is phenomenal over 1 lap pace, but issues seem to raise their ugly head during the course of races. There have been strategy calls that have gone wrong as well for Alpine. And what about the pit lane speeding infringements that we saw back at Zandvoort as well? Things have got in the way of Alpine. And obviously, on top of that, we've had race bans. He hasn't won since the very first race of the season at Brazil. So, what does he need to do to make a change here?
I don't think it's just down to him. I think it's down to the team on a whole. You know, they've got to start figuring out the strategies, and of course Otis has got to kind of calm down a bit. I think he very easily gets hot-headed, and of course that's down to his young age. He's one of the youngest drivers in the scene. And I think that's the issue sometimes. He gets a little bit distracted, and once you get a little bit of head loss, things then just start to fall out of place. And you start to make mistakes that you don't need to, and of course that leads to big penalties, such as that 10-second penalty for speeding in the pits, or that whole disaster in Melbourne, I suppose we could say, for himself and Ulash Azildrim. It's just to make, I think, just keeping a calm head, which is difficult, and it takes time to learn. And of course he's getting better and better as time goes on. But yeah, I'm sure the team are kind of happy that the mistakes are happening now rather than this happening in the F1 Sim Racing Championship. They have a few months, I presume, now to kind of sort of put those issues down and get everything sorted ready for the main championship, which the teams care about a lot more than they would the League Racing Championships. And I suppose there's lots of drivers as well who really are perform well in qualifying but just can't get it down into the race. And I think we've seen that a lot in the past with the likes of Thomas Runhar. Of course, he's had 2 back-to-back wins, but this season and previous, he struggled a lot in that race, and pushing forward, he tends to get into incidents that really he shouldn't be getting involved in.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was dutifully punished for the infractions that he made back in Australia, as was Ulash Azildrim, but it's great to see both drivers back and racing here in PSGL once again, and the young man from the Welsh Valleys now making his way around the final 2 corners on this outlap. Well, certainly, should I say, his teammate is. Otis Lawrence also on an outlap, but he'll be going around the circuit a little bit longer as we now watch his teammate Danny Berejnay make his way across the line. The Hungarian now coming through turn 1 and will now look to open up the throttle for his first timed lap. Of course, did not raise a lap in the initial phase of qualifying. Was slightly against the grain of others that have gone out a little bit earlier. 1:21.5 is the time to beat, and Berejnay just locks up there coming through turn 5. I don't think that's going to inhibit him too much, but the first sector times will be coming in now very shortly. I can tell you that an 18.3 inside the first sector for Berejnay in accordance to my timing screen. Now, whether that's true, I'm not quite sure. Otis Lawrence already now getting his second lap underway. Barry Burraman, 1:21.5 was his last one as well, but of course 73,000 slower than, slower Burraman was against Lawrence, as now we watch as Berejnay flies through turn 9 this time, and it's a purple middle sector here and now. It was a personal best first sector from Berejnay. Obviously no surprise with this being his first lap at 34.3, though, does cement him as the fastest man inside the middle sector. The Hungarian, who has partnered Jarno Opmeer to drive a championship success. A little tail whip there from Berejnay coming through the final sector. Also partnered Brendan Lee to championship gold back in 2018, as now he makes his way around the final corner. Goes fastest now with a 1:21.307. Great lap there from Danny Berejnay. More laps now coming on in, including from Joris Krozen, who goes fastest as well this time. What about Duncan Hoffland? He goes quickest. The track getting warmer. Better tyres on offer as well for many, as we now await others. Longuet goes quickest here and now. Now, what about the others? We have got a red car coming across of Barry Burremand. He goes second fastest. Otis Lawrence returns to the top with a 120.964, the first 120 of the session. Ruben Pedreño has gone sixth fastest. Now we see Istvan Pukki in fourth. Tom Manley moves into fifth. And what about Alfie Butcher, who now crosses the line and goes second fastest? Of course, former winner here in Abu Dhabi in F1 sim racing, and now second fastest behind Otis Lawrence by 35 thousandths of a second, as we now also see Jake Benham inside the top 5 on his return to PSGL as well. So it's Lawrence back on top here.
It certainly is, as we do see Rasmussen a bit of a slide out at the final quarter, but goes fourth quickest. A 121.054 for him, and look at the gaps down to 10th place. 2.2 tenths of a second separate Otis Lawrence down to Istvan Pukki. Just over 2.5 separates Otis and Joris Krozen. So very, very close here as we get to the midpoint of Q2. Of course, they'll all have one more run to make at the end of this session. Then we'll get to see who goes through in towards Q3, but of course the top 4 not even a tenth, the top 9, sorry, just less than 2 tenths here. I think we're definitely going to see some big names out of this session, and I think sometimes it's more about when you get the lap done, not how you get the lap done. It's going to be, you know, if you're left last to set your lap, you're going to be under so much pressure. Sometimes that's enough for you to crumble, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I just want to say Otis Lawrence, pole sitter last time out when we raced here back in season 38. And it led to a Barry Burremand victory. And once again, we're starting to see similar names converge once more. Though Barry, despite initially what looked to be a fast time, eventually found himself down in P8 off the back of some faster runs coming in from the likes of Alfie Butcher, a former winner here in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship. At the very same moment where we witnessed, of course, our new champion crowned in Lucas Blakely, who now sits P9 and 1 away from the bubble of elimination. But as we now watch the cars get wheeled into the garage, they'll get set for one final dance surrounding Q2. And at the moment, it's Tom Manley, Duncan Offland, Ruben Pedreño, Joris Krozen and Danny Berejné going out of the session. Obviously, do let us know who you think is going to be eliminated at home, folks. We can't wait to hear from you. Obviously, we love getting you guys involved. But unless they figure something out quickly here now, Nathan, Tom Manley, Duncan Offland, Pedreño, Krozen and Berejné will be departing.
Certainly, and there's a lot of pressure here on Danny Berejné especially. He's over a tenth and a half away from the top 10, never mind getting even further to solidify yourself into the top 10. So a big lap up coming here for Danny Berejné, and of course he's got one chance, and that is it, as we do see Danny Berejné going out very early. So with 3 minutes to go, is he potentially aiming up for 2 laps if he needs to, because he's going to have enough time to go for 2 runs here? So that could be the plan here for Danny Berejné. Go for 1 run. If he makes a mistake, he can afford to go again, because he's gone out a lot earlier than many others. We do see joining him on track, Ruben Pedreño and one of the green cars. That will be not Thomas Ronhart, not Duncan Hofland. It'll be Nicholas Longuet, who's up in 3rd. He's also chose to go out. Now, does that tell us that potentially nobody is safe here in Q2?
Well, we'll soon find out. At the moment, we're watching Danny Berejné, who currently sits at the very bottom of the classification so far with a 121.307, finds himself just under 3.5 tenths away from Otis Lawrence's P1 time. Lawrence feeling really safe right now, to the point where he's decided to retire from Q2, and therefore in hope, obviously not like Jarno Opmeer did, who retired early back in Q1, did not make it into Q2. As a consequence, he'll be hoping to head through to Q3 in a bid to take back-to-back pole positions here at Abu Dhabi. Obviously, in terms of race winners, no one has been more successful than Barry Burremand here at this track here, Nathan. The only driver to win more than once at this particular circuit. Brendan Lee, of course, a former winner here back in season 34 and one of his last PSGL PCF1 race wins. And Jarno Opmeer, a winner here back in season 27, en route to becoming a champion for the very first time in PCF1 in its very first season. Now we await Danny Berejné to register his final lap of Q2. He'll be hoping to move through to Q3 to correspond with his own teammate Otis Lawrence. So here comes the Hungarian blasting down the straight, heading down in towards turn 1. Final qualifying laps in Q2 underway, Nathan.
Certainly, Berejne heading through the first couple of corners, of course, hopping the curbs as you make your way through turns 2, 3 and 4, then down in towards the harsh braking zone of turn number 5. You get all the way to the right-hand side, get the car down to third gear, hook the apex, back on the power straight away as you head out to the 5th corner. And once again, DRS open all the way down towards the chicane at turn 6 to 7. And of course here, you've got to get this line perfectly right. You hook the white line on the right-hand side, get on the brakes, then to third gear, flick the car in, hop the first curve, slightly hop the second curve, then once again back on the throttle. And so far, this is looking like a decent lap for Danny Berejne, but of course he'll come to the end of Sector 2 shortly. We'll see how much time he's up by in this first 2 sectors only here, George. Half a tenth, so he's got to hope now that all the time he can find is in Sector 3.
Well, he has already achieved purple inside the first sector with a 16.7. It's looking strong here for Danny Berejne. The last lap not constituting to a top time. In fact, it's the lowest time that we've currently got on the board right now, but it's a 34.3 inside the middle. This is a great chance here now for Danny Berejne to launch himself up with his very own Welsh teammate here, Otis Lawrence. Could Alpine sing their way into Q3? Well, Berejne goes 6th fastest for now. That's not a bad place to start. We've got other drivers coming through as well, including Thomas Ronha. He's making his way through the first sector. Longgator will be next, but he's invalidated the lap. But it's enough for third anyway for Nicholas Longay. It'll be a tough nut to crack, that one, as we await others to come through. Alfie Butcher, former winner in F1 sim racing at this circuit. He goes fastest now in Q2. Pedreño goes 7th quickest. What about Barry Burumand? He will go 3rd fastest here for now. Great time there for the Iranian and former race winner twice over at this circuit. Elsewhere, Berejne now toppled to 8th. Pedreño 2 away from the bubble. He's on the bubble now because in comes Pookie into 7th fastest. Joris Krozen eliminates Pedreño. Berejne on the bubble. Blakely's out. Benham's out. Ronha is out. My goodness, Thomas Ronha out of the session as now we see others filtering through. Rasmussen will come across the line. He'll go 7th fastest. Shock, horror here at Abu Dhabi. Thomas Ronha will not feature in the final session of qualifying. No kick Saubers taking part in Q3. It's Alfie Butcher quickest. 5 thousandths between he and Otis Lawrence over Ps 1 and 2, with Ulas Azilrim also inside the top 3. Barry Burman 4th, Nicholas Longay in 5th, Duncan Offland 6th, then Frederick Rasmussen, and then we have Istvan Pukki, Joris Krozen, Danny Berejne, and we say goodbye to Ruben Pedreño, Thomas Ronha, Jake Benham, Tom Manley, and Lucas Blakely, Nathan.
I mean, the lap times there are absolutely insane. Not even a tenth separating Burman down to Ronhart. Look at the gaps from Rasmussen down to Pedreño. That's about 30 thousandths of a second. It was one of those where anybody could have been through into Q3. Anybody could have been out in Q2. And of course, a big shock there is no Thomas Ronhart heading in towards Q3. And that's already one of our heavy pole hitters out before we get to see that top 10 race. But what a lap as well from Alfie Butcher to go quickest. Of course, Otis Lawrence was the only one that thought, you know what, we'll be safe, we'll be happy in P1. He ended that session in P2, so that just shows how good of a lap it was initially by Otis Lawrence.
He was pole at this track back in season 32-33, Nathan, was Thomas Ronha. Obviously, we seem to be a far ways away from that right now, and obviously, what are Kick Sauber going to do now? Because obviously Klaffenbach starting from the back. It's not as if they can flex their muscles with one driver being at the top of the shop and the other, you know, should we just say, perhaps nestling inside the bottom of the, of the top 10. It's nothing like that. Instead, they've got a situation where no drivers are moving through now to Q3. There's your classification, folks. And can I just say, what a return here for both Otis Lawrence and also Ulas Azilrim. After their bans, they've come back, you know, obviously fueled and ready to go. Both of them inside Q3 and have barely been separated through the course of qualifying so far.
Yeah, certainly, and it seems that being away for a couple of races hasn't harmed them in the slightest, and they both come back and they'll both be starting up in the top 10. I think another great session from Joris Krozen. Same can go for Duncan Hoffland, who, of course, as we know, hasn't scored that many points this season, only 17 to his name. He'll be starting in the top 10 here, at least in what has been one of the closest qualifying sessions I think we've seen in a long time in league racing. Of course, anybody could have been out in Q1. Same for Q2. So a brilliant job by all of our top 10 making it through to the final qualifying session. But I mean, when you look at who could go for pole, you could look at possibly 5 or 6 names here in this session. I think it's one of those where you don't have that one standout name who's been brilliant so far. Everybody's been up there.
Well, it looks like Joris Krozen is going to come in anyway after kicking out all the brake marker boards. And therefore, we'll now look to go again, ready for the official start, we'd imagine, of qualifying. We've got just, now coming under 10 minutes to go here in the session. A few cars now getting ready to hop out. No questions. I'm sure there is some look at setup and some reviews with race engineers as well. Of course, it's a very active realm, is the engineer scene these days. Obviously, if you compare it to where we have been in the past, nowadays a race engineer is more and more important than it ever used to be. Because now we see the Alpines kicking into gear. And this will be Danny Berejnay, not wasting any time, hopping straight out of the pit box. And we'll now head straight down through the tunnel and then back out onto the track. But it's been a marvellous time for Alpine so far here in Q3. And dare I say, with a lot of the, should I say, that the teams that have generally been consistently up at the top, we'll have a look at the highest pole scorer. It is indeed Otis Lawrence. I mean, aside from that, Thomas Ronhaar, 2 poles this season. Barry Burreman, 1. Freddie Rasmussen with 3. He is, of course, still in the session. But with there being no Thomas Ronhaar in Q3, that opens up a huge window of opportunity for so many drivers here in this session as well.
Certainly, and I think as well with one round to go, those drivers that don't normally go into that fight for pole, that normally end up falling outside that top 4, top 5, probably want to strive even more. Get that final pole of the season and get yourself onto a decent position heading into the race. That's what many drivers will be thinking. You're looking at the likes of Joris Kroes and Alfie Butcher, Nicolas Longuet, who of course in the past have taken many poles and been up onto the front 2 rows, but this season haven't been quite there. So it will be great to see one of those guys jump up onto the top of qualifying. But then again, you're looking at Otis Lawrence, Freddie Rasmussen, Barry Burreman, as usual, always up there. So whoever takes it is going to have to do an absolutely phenomenal job. Of course, what we saw in Las Vegas last time out, we thought once Thomas Ronhaar crossed the line, right, that's it, done. Never mind, Julian Kuffenbach came through and took pole by over 80 thousandths of a second. So there's always room for surprise. Yeah,
no, there is. And I think we're going to be seeing some shocks and surprises here. Of course, folks, we want you to get your predictions in for pole position for this Q3 session, as now Danny Berejnay makes his way down through towards turn 1 in this Q3 session that will last for the remaining 7 minutes and 40 or so. The Hungarian now whipping the tail out on the Alpine, coming through the first sector. And now dancing through the slalom before heading down in towards turn 5. And then pick up the throttle again, heading down the long straight between turn 5 and turn 6, where DRS will be in existence. We'll keep our eyes on the sector times for you, folks. I can tell you that Danny Berejnay is currently purple with a 16.7. That could yet be challenged, though, from elsewhere, as now the drivers start filtering their way through Sector 1 and in towards Sector 2 proper. An invalidation already, though, for Duncan Hofland. So that's not a great start for him. Therefore, he will have to go again. Not quite purple at all for the man in P5, Nicolas Longuet. And Otis Lawrence not quicker than his teammate either. So it's Danny Berejnay holding all the cards so far in the first sector. Let's see where he sits in the second. It's a 34.324 to go fastest with a purple sector time. Now heading down in towards the final sector proper, this time weaving through the stadium section and just under the bridge as well. The scenes of where Nicholas Latifi crashed out, leading to the safety car that ended up causing controversy at the close of the 2021 Formula 1 season. Here comes Berejnay now, coming through the final corner. And he'll make his way out of turn 16 before hitting the stripe. It will be a 1:21.005, nowhere near the 120s that we have seen of old, but a decent time to start here for Danny Berejnay. Next up will be his teammate and compadre, Otis Lawrence, who is purple inside the middle sector with a 34.2. Can the Welshman unseat his own teammate? Yes, he can. First driver to come into the 120s, and it's a good one as well. Longuet goes second. He joins the 120 club. Pookie goes fourth fastest here for now. We've got others coming through. Duncan Hofland will come across the line, not setting a lap because he invalidated that first run. What about others? We've got Joris Krozen into fourth fastest as well. Elsewhere, Alfie Butcher coming through the final few corners. He will be the next driver to land a time. The question is, can he get close to Otis Lawrence's fastest time? He's been threatening that P1 spot all night long and can only go third fastest here, Nathan.
I mean, that lap there by Otis, absolutely sensational from him. As we do see Barry Berman through the final corner himself. He'll be trying to take Otis away from pole. Up to the line, goes second. It's a 9.22 as Ildrim jumps up into third. Then we have Freddie Rasmussen, who also jumps up into second place. An 8.14 for him, a few thousandths separating himself and Otis Lawrence, and then everybody else. Barry Berman then at least a 10th back from second place. But what a lap for Otis to start off the session. At 120.783 in Q2, we saw a 0.9, and we're already into the high 0.7s before we've even got underway fully with Q3. Not a good start though for Hoffland, who is yet to set a lap time on the board, and I believe the likes of Pookie and Crows and probably are on a U set of the tyres, as they are a little bit way away from Otis Lawrence.
That's a cracking first lap though from Otis Lawrence at 120.7, 31 thousandths faster than Freddie Rasmussen already in the initial, so a great time for him to lay down. We've currently got the top 6 all in the 120s, albeit for Alfie Butcher by 1,000th of a second to be inside that 120 realm. Berejnay sits 5 thousandths away from it, down in 7th, Crows in 8th, then Pookie in 9th, Duncan Hoffland, who invalidated that previous lap, obviously not fielding a lap as a consequence, will have to try and land a blow in the closing stage of this session. We've got just over 4 minutes to go until the very end. Big thank you to all of you getting involved in the live chats. There's a lot of talk about Nicholas Latifi after I made a remark off the back of the controversial 2021 season. For those of you who are confused by it, we're at the track where it all happened, folks. Come on. That was where the controversial moment occurred, where he crashed under the bridge, causing the safety car. Hence why we had the furious fight then between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen right through the final lap phase, leading to Verstappen winning his very first Formula One World Championship. But we are here anyway for PSGL PCF1 Season 40 finale. Big thank you to all of you for tuning in. Please let me know your predictions, folks. I'm seeing that Zahid Abdi is betting on me for pole. That would be a waste of money. Zahid Abdi, do not do that. UGE Day for pole. We're mentioning other notorious Formula One drivers from the past as well. Let us know, everybody. We do want to hear from you. Otis Lawrence, can he go back-to-back for poles? That's what we all want to know. TK for poles says Elite Star Sam. We do hope TK is doing okay as well. By the way, I'm sure he's watching somewhere. Obviously now, as we see many other drivers moving out now, I think this is our first movement, and I think it's Danny Berejnay. Once again, he's going to be the first driver out of the pits. Pole for Otis, the Goatis, says Tactics Rules. Who knows? He could be in the final race of the season. We'll soon find out. Anything can happen. Let us know your pole predictions in the chat. Nathan, what's yours?
Ooh, it's a close one. I'd like to go with Otis because, you know, at the moment he looks like he's the most likely one to get it, but I'm not going to go with the obvious pick. I'm going to go with Barry Berman, who currently sits in P3, of course, as we know. Very prolific around this track, has had 3 podiums in 3 races, 2 of them being victories, and we know he's very quick in qualifying. So I'm going to go for Barry Berman for pole position, who is now just heading out of the pit lane in his Ferrari, which I don't remember being grey.
No, I think that's a change of colouring, I think, because I'm pretty sure it was red before, but yeah, incredible. Big thank you to all of you with your comments as well. Big thank you as well to David O'Connor, Dub Commentary. Thank you so much, my friend. We got Danny, says Barney, Otis from Chuki Chops, and we've got Anis Athanasios Nathaniel, I'm going to guess you're Greek, says, hey George, Nathan here, big sad that you couldn't throw Julian out of the lobby again and take part in quali, but I know you did it out of kindness of your heart. Listen, I know my pace is red hot at the end of the day. That's just the way it is. There we go. What else have we got here? Mahavir Raghunathan for pole. Not here. This is not GT3 racing. Freddie gets pole, says Zahid Abdi. Otis will bottle it. Dubcom says Herman. Big thank you to Herman. Thank you so much. Alfie says Senol Verbika. Thank you so much. Keep it coming, Mr. Dale. Good to see you as well. Thank you, all of you. Let's get set ready for the final laps of the session. And first and foremost, kicking us off, it's the Hungarian Danny Berejnay, Nathan.
It certainly is once again going first in this session, and it seems that's kind of been the theme for the evening for Danny Berejnay. Maybe he likes to have that pressure of setting that lap time first and watching everybody else follow through with their times as he heads down towards turn 5. He's up by 3 thousandths of a second in Sector 1, but of course I'm not sure how competitive that sector was compared to everybody else. Purple on my screen, but I'm not sure if that's just the track map being the track map as he now heads his way down towards turn number 6 again. Of course, late on the brakes, get the car thrown in, and of course just carry as much speed through as you possibly can. Third gear all the way through there, and then of course shifting all the way up to 8th gear as you head down towards turn on. A very tricky final sector here is it at Abu Dhabi, and we'll see how much Danny is up by in Sector 2. He's up by just under a tenth. Currently could put him up to P3, but of course everybody else between P3 and P6 are also in a 0.9, so this could be a very, very close ending to the session here.
It could well be, and it's two purples in sequential sectors here for Danny Berejnay. Purple first sector 16.7, a 34.2 in the middle as well. This could be stardom for Danny Berejnay. Alpine already with a driver on top. Otis could see himself alleviated from P1. Not quite. Danny Berejnay only enough for third fastest. That is where he stays. Elsewhere, Duncan Offland making his way around the track. He will be the next driver to lay down a lap time. No time fielded by this man so far. The Dutchman, Duncan Offland, who has been with Aston Martin since the walls have nearly went up here in terms of their run in F1 sim racing. When he now exits out of the final corner, where is Offland going to go? Two decent sectors, but not enough to break inside the top 5. He remains 8th fastest. Alfie Butcher goes quickest. My goodness me. The man who won here in F1 sim racing in the past has gone quickest. Barry Burman 3rd fastest. Otis Lawrence is Goatis once more and goes quickest here with a 120.6. When you think he's done it all, he almost certainly hasn't. He squeezed every little bit of life out of it. Can Rasmussen put him to bed though in return? Further laps coming in. Is Rasmussen going to do it? I dare say not, and he can't. Second row for Freddie Rasmussen. It is a 5th pole position of the season for Otis Lawrence. A stunning lap from Goatis himself, and that cements his place at the top of the shop. He'll be starting on the front row alongside former winner here around this track, Alfie Butcher. Barry Burman in 3rd place, also a former 2-time winner around this circuit. Freddie Rasmussen in 4th, Ulas Zildrim in 5th, Nicholas Longuet in 6th, Danny Berejnay 7th, Istvan Pukki in 8th, and Duncan Offland in 9th, Joris Krozen in 10th, and we'll be back after these quick messages. PSGL is brought to you by Sim Racing Setups. Get your pro setups, unlock extra performance with the Pro F1 25 car setups created by the drivers in PSGL. Esports and stable setups for every track, quali, race and wet setups, optimal race strategies, free meta setup updates, as well as created by drivers racing in PSGL, pro support, and compatible with Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. All setups just $49.99. Get them from simracingsetup.com and use code PSGL for a 5% discount. See you on track. So there we are, folks. Otis Lawrence, purple again, laying down a stunning lap, a 120.6 to go quickest in the session. His 5th pole position of the season as well. A miraculous performance, I have to say. Alfie Butcher looked to have it won as well. You've got to bear in mind, his first lap was decent, Nathan, but the second one, how on earth he squeezed extra life out of it is phenomenal.
Insane. A brilliant lap there from Otis, of course, himself and Alfie very close up at the top, and I thought for a moment maybe Alfie's got it, but no, Otis went that little bit quicker and of course took that pole position away. And just while we're getting ourselves set up for the race, I'm now entering ourselves into the lobby, get everything set up, and hopefully without any issues we should be underway in around 5 to 10 minutes time.
Well, in the meantime, let's give you guys a reminder whilst we let Nathan crack on with that. Here is how the driver standings look off the back of our last round. Of course, this is post Las Vegas, of course, folks, and it led to Jarno Opmeer becoming a champion for a 8th time in PSGL, 7 times for PCF1, and 150 points. The only driver to cross that 100 points barrier so far this season, ahead of Freddie Rasmussen by 18 points here and now. Barry Burman in 3rd, could still yet pass Rasmussen should results go his way. Thomas Ronner, after a difficult qualifying session, will be starting outside of the top 10. Currently sits 4th in the standings after recent victories that he has sustained, 2 on the bounce of course, both at Mexico and Las Vegas. Of course, Alfie Butcher down in 5th as well, ahead of Ishmael Fassi, and then Otis Lawrence down in 7th. He'll be starting on pole on his return after a 2-race ban. And he currently sits on 59 points, arguably has been largely underplayed by this 59-point tally, as Otis Lawrence should probably be a lot higher considering what we have seen over one lap. But the races just haven't gone to plan. As they always say, trebles for show, doubles for dough, as the great Bobby George once said in the world of darts. In this case, it's quali for show, races for dough. Azildrim in 8th place as well, with Longay, Klaffenbach, Crozen inside the top 11. Then we have Caraton, Pedreño, Benham, Berejnay, Hoffland, Manley, Tormala, as well as Edo and Linton, rounding off the remainder as well. Of course, we have to mark in place that, of course, Lucas Blakely managed to net together his first points of the season last time out, netting together 2 points in his efforts of once again restoring himself back to the higher echelons of this championship. This is how the team standings look. 212 here for the Red Bull team of Jarno Watmere and Freddie Rasmussen. They have already won the title in terms of the team's championship, with Jarno Watmere capturing the drivers. It has been a domination on points of the Red Bull team this season, ahead of Ferrari, who are on 152, ahead of Kick Sauber on 3, McLaren in 4th, with Alpine in 5th, Aston Martin in 6th, and then of course Williams, VCarb, Haas on 44, with Mercedes still stranded on 7th despite the additional points coming in from Blakely and Pookie. Work to be done for the Brackley team. This is how the season's grid has looked all season long, folks. Of course, it is subject to change as we make our way through the season, but just as a little helpful reminder, as we always do for every broadcast, Otis Lawrence and Danny Berejnay racing for Alpine. We have Duncan Offland and Nicholas Longay at Aston Martin, then Barry Burremand, Ishmael Fassi at Ferrari, Reece Linton, Joris Krozen at Haas, then Thomas Ronhard, Julian Klaffenbach at Kick Sauber, Alvaro Caraton, Ruben Pedreño in Williams, and then we have Tom Manley, Ulas Azildrim in RB, and then we have Jarno Watmere, Freddie Rasmussen at Red Bull, with Istvan Pookie and Lucas Blakely at Mercedes. Alfie Butcher and Jake Benham round the roster off with a McLaren drive. Tonight's grid, of course, a couple of finer changes, but just to go through them for you, no changes at Alpine or Aston Martin, neither at Ferrari, but Tycho Hardy steps up alongside Joris Krozen. We have Thomas Ronhard and Klaffenbach back together as always. Wilson Hughes stepping back on his return, but not in orange. Of course, many of you will know that tends to drive a papaya car. Well, he's in a Williams tonight alongside Ruben Pedreño. We have Tom Manley and Ulas Ozildrim then at RB. We have Jarno Watmere, Freddie Rasmussen in the Red Bull. Then comes Istvan Pookie and Lucas Blakely, with Jake Benham and Alfie Butcher together once more as well. This is the story of the calendar at the same time. Of course, we ticked off Brazil. In fact, we did Brazil twice, didn't we, folks? But more on that in a moment. We did Brazil, first race of the season on July 23rd. We then headed to Texas for the USGP, and that was round 2. Round 3 was Britain and Netherlands, then round 4. Our first break week came into play on August 20th, and then we moved through to Japan for round 5 on August 27th. September 3rd, China, and then on September 18th, it was Belgium. We moved then to round 8 with Jeddah, marking our second half of the season on September 17th, before Qatar as part of our Middle Eastern double act rounds on round 9. We then went on break for the second time and the final time in October 1st, and then we headed to Bahrain. Well, we planned to head to Bahrain. Instead, we moved to Brazil for a second time for round 10, and then Australia for round 11 before touching down in Mexico as part of our America's continent run, as we moved our way through Mexico, and then later Vegas for the penultimate round of the season that led to Jarno Watmere capturing the title. Of course, Red Bull also capturing the crown latter into the campaign. And now we've arrived here at this very moment, the final round, round 14, here on November 5th. Bonfire night, which will, I'm sure, set fireworks off here this evening. And already we've had a very close and competitive qualifying session. We are here in Abu Dhabi for the final round of Season 40 here in PSGL. So that is how things look, folks. And just a little reminder as to where we are going this evening. We are heading to Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. We are here at Yas Marina Circuit. 5.281 kilometers in length translates to 3.281 miles. 16 turns in total, with Yas Island, an artificial island in Abu Dhabi, named after the Arabian Bani Yas tribe, and one of the largest tourism prospects in Abu Dhabi itself. Houses the fastest roller coaster in the world, the Formula Rosso, that stands tall inside Ferrari World. Yas Island, Abu Dhabi, as well to boot. We have raced here already 4 times in the past. Only one driver has won more than one race, and that is Barry Burrowman, who won it back in Season 32 and Season 33 and Season 38 as well. That Season 32-33 part of one season in the past. Of course, Thomas Ronhart was a pole sitter for that first race. You might remember that those two had a contentious fight right to the end in Season 32 and 33, which led to Burrowman taking the title. Jana Watmere, of course, a prior winner of this race, is going to have work to do off the back of not even getting out of Q1 in our earlier qualifying session. But Otis Lawrence now becoming the first driver to take back-to-back pole positions and become the first driver to take more than one pole here at Abu Dhabi. Here in PSGL PCF1. After taking pole back in Season 38, he has done the same here in Season 40. So that is how the numbers are stacked. And Nathan, we're getting set ready to go again, I'm sure, for what I'm sure will be a fascinating race. And obviously, strategy is going to be all the more important. I'm sure you're busy working away, actually, sorting out the grid. I might have come to you a little bit prematurely, but what does Otis need to do here? Surely he has to win this race. I mean, if anything, it would, I'm sure, restore a little bit of light, a little bit of hope for his campaign.
Certainly. I've got one more driver to sort out, which will be Freddie Rasmussen, who joined a little bit late. And then, George, I kind of need you to go into spectator because I'd rather not have you in the session driving.
That's happened before. That has happened before. Mexico. Many of you will remember that. That was, yeah, incredible. But yes, do get involved, everyone. We want to hear from you guys in the live chat. Of course, we are getting set to go racing around Abu Dhabi, which held its first Grand Prix back in 2009 in the Formula One World Championship as well. And for those of you who want to check out the socials, you certainly can at Premier Sim GL on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok as well. We are live on 2 platforms here this evening. Not only are we live on YouTube, as we tend to be most of the time, we're also live on Twitch. You can join us on there. A big shout out to those of you tuning in on Twitch as well. And if you've just joined us and just discovered PSGL for the first time, firstly, where on earth have you been? And secondly, we welcome you all with open arms as well. And I'm sure we'll see many more young drivers coming through into the PSGL PCF1 Championship. And what's crazy, and I was discussing this actually with Luke Crane from Team Redline the other day, Nathan. We were talking about how the new blood that are tuning in and watching league racing here and now those people that have grown up with sim racing. You know, and this is the main twist now, because sim racing has been going on, I would say, largely over the last 10 to 15 years. I think only has it risen to prominence, really, in recent years, I would say, largely. And it's still growing, it always will. But we're now seeing drivers coming in that are growing up with the sport, by and large, essentially, which makes me feel old.
I mean, I'm only 21, but I'm considered as an, in quotes, unk in the community, which is quite sad to think. I'm only 21. I've only been here 3 years, and I'm already one of the oldest. But no, it's great to see names as well that you see like 4 or 5 years ago in the chat commenting, and you're like, oh, you're actually racing in the grid now. It's quite surreal to see, and it's great to see so many young drivers now watching league racing and thinking, I want to be one of those, and they get in the cockpit and they try it themselves, whereas before, you kind of watch along and let the drivers do their work, but now we see so many wanting to get involved and becoming a part of the community. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we want to hear from you as well, folks, your predictions for this final race in PSGL Season 40. We will not be back until F1 26, everybody. As you can now see, there is the pit lane here as we are taking pictures live from Abu Dhabi here right now. Please get your predictions in the live chat. We want to hear from you. Get involved. Get your comments in. We want to hear your predictions. Predictions from you, Nathan. Oh, the race will be a hard one because we saw in quali, my prediction was wrong. In the race, I'm going to go with Otis for the win. I'm going to go second place. You know what? I'm going to go second place Ronhart, third place Opmir. I'm going to go all out there. Ronhart and Opmir from outside the top 10, both on the podium.
Well, there we have it. That's a big call there from Nathan Richards. Julian Wynn says BlazeX as well. Obviously, get involved, everyone. We want to hear from you. Get in the chat. Give us your predictions. We want to see them. Obviously, we're waiting to go racing now for the 5th time in our history here at Abu Dhabi. It's going to be a furious finish. It's Alfie Butcher alongside Otis Lawrence for, well, the run down through towards turn 1. Who's going to get the better start? Will they take the win? Otis gunning for the win, says Tactics Rules. For the last time, pedal to the metal. It absolutely is Tactics Rules. Please let us know. Opmir says Debay and Sahar. So please register more of your predictions. We do appreciate you, folks. Be sure to leave a like and also subscribe as well if you're watching on YouTube. If you are watching on Twitch, do leave a follow, as now we go racing for the final time in Season 40 of PSGL, and we put pedal to the metal, and it is go, 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 go! Otis Lawrence getting a good start. Alfie Butcher slightly sluggish away. There was a little look there from Barry Burman as they come through turn 1 and then rising up through turn 2 and turn 3. It's Otis Lawrence who leads the way to open up this Abu Dhabi extravaganza. We have got Freddie Rasmussen also trying to move into the rear here of Barry Burman, very nearly caught napping. Here comes Ulas Zilrim as well, who's now diving up the inside of Rasmussen and able to pull it off as they now work their way out of turn 5 on the way down the long straight. No changes up at the front. It is still Otis Lawrence now leading them down through. Is Ulas going to go for the same move again? Coming into the heavy braking zone. They're all squabbling for position now as Danny Berejnay comes in on the attack. Lovely move from Danny Berejnay to try and flex his muscles here past Nicholas Longay. They're going to go wheel to wheel all the way down in towards turn 9. Berejnay has done it.
There's battling absolutely everywhere here on track. No matter where you look, there's something going on. Further back we see Joris Krozen there having a battle with Thomas Ronhaar, who's the only driver to start on the hard compound. Everybody else on the medium. Ronhaar is on the hards, as we do see Rasmussen as well closing in further ahead on the back of Barry Burman as they make their way through into towards turns 12, 13 and 14, and then right to the rear of the field. I think it was Lucas Blakely there making a move ahead of Tom Manley and jumping up into 14th place. A brilliant opening lap here from all of our drivers. As also further ahead we do have Nicholas Longay looking to get on the attack on the back of Danny Berejnay. Lap 2:29, Otis Lawrence leads, Butcher second, with Burman running off the podium.
Yeah, Otis Lawrence, the Welshman, bidding to become a race winner for only the second time this season. He won the very first race of the season. How appropriate would it be for him to turn around and win the final race of the season as well, to bring an end to Season 40 in our final ever campaign on PCF1, in our only campaign in PCF1 on F1 25. Alfie Butcher hovering all over the rear of Lawrence also right now. We have got Freddie Rasmussen just looking to the outside as well, obviously just fanning out, potentially just to cool those tyres down at the same time. It's all about preservation. Strategy is key here on F1 25 as now they lock horns once again. Blakely trying to move up the order. He's taking on Ruben Pedreño as they come through out of the chicane section. He's being joined by Thomas Ronhaar by the same instance as well. Now looking to come back on the repeaters. Jarno Opmeer, just look at these three going 3 wide. My goodness me, Jarno Opmeer leaving it late, coming through turn 9 and manages to at least get ahead here of Thomas Ronhaar, who drops down to 15th.
That was a brilliant move there by Jarno Opmeer. He got 2 cars through turn 9, but couldn't quite get ahead of the Mercedes of Lucas Blakely as they make their way through turns 13 and 14 once again. Further ahead, Longay all over the rear of Danny Berejnay there. Nearly ended up going for a move that he wasn't going to, I think, mean to go for towards turn into the final corner. Nearly took the back of Danny Berejnay out into the final corner as we head back in towards turn 1 once again. And it's lap 3 of 29. Further back as well, Ronhaar losing places, but of course he's on the harder compound of tyre. That means he's going to struggle in the first, I'd say, 5 or 6 laps. After that, it should be a way easier ride for him. As now Jarno Opmeer looks to battle with Lucas Blakely in towards turn 5, goes deep and through. Goes Pedreño and Ronhaar as they battle side by side.
Yeah, I think Blakely got caught. He got shifted out wide, and now he's looking to try and recover the damage as they now charge down through towards the next chicane section at turn 6 and 7. It is Klaffenbach now ahead of Ronhaar this time. The 2 kick Saubers swapping places as now Jarno gets stuck in behind Pedreño's rear wing. Blakely somehow has made his way back up into 12th. It's been sheer chaos here so far as the polystyrene boards get smacked again, this time in race trim. Blakely now hovering all over the back of Joris Krozen, with Pedreño now sat in between he and Jarno Opmeer. Back comes Klaffenbach with a look up the inside at turn 9, the very scene of where Jarno flew around the outside, but on this occasion Klaffenbach unable to pull anything off, at least for now. And back again on Pedreño's rear. But what an exhilarating start to this Yas Island race.
Brilliant start indeed, and once again Longay all over the back of Berejnay through that final sector as they head into the final corner to begin lap 4. It seems that Berejnay might struggle in sector 3 potentially compared to the Aston Martin behind as they head back into turn 1. Of course, Opmeer there in 14th all over the back of Ruben Pedreño. Was ahead of Pedreño earlier on, but of course a mistake by himself and Blakely into turn 5 cost him that 13th spot. So Pedreño now looking to push forward on the back of Lucas Blakely. Jake Benham as well up into the top 10. A great start from him. Just ahead of Joris Krozen and just behind the back of Duncan Hofland as they make it out of turn number 5 once again. And of course we now reach that stalemate point where nobody really looks to make any moves. Everyone's just consistent on staying where they are and making it to the end of that first opening stint.
Yeah, well, Julian Clapperbott with another late move at the inside. My goodness me. Him together again. Jarno managing to put him to bed, at least for now, as we take a look at them making their way out of turn 7. Now round turn 8, Clapperbott might try again. Jarno had to go full on defensive on the run down in towards that chicane section. Clapperbott now fishing around the outside, trying to hunt down the Flying Dutchman. Can he put him down? Not quite. The champion holds on. Clapperbott remains in 15th, but a very scary moment at the chicane at turn 6 and 7 for both drivers as Clapperbott dead very late on the brakes.
Certainly, as temporarily we did lose Ismail Fassi. He joins back. He's at the back of the field though, and he's not in DRS. Of Wilson Hughes, not good at all for Ismail Fassi. Certainly not what he would have been hoping for here for his final race this season. Of course, started 19th, but that was by choice rather than qualifying down at the back of the field. But now has a lot of work to do if he even wants to bother finishing in the top 19. That is safe to say as Longate closes in on Perishne, but loses time heading down towards turn 5. And I'm just looking to see if anybody's thinking about making a move. Ron I've noticed on these past couple of laps has started to bring that gap back down to his teammate Julian Clapperbott. So maybe the Hards now are looking to equalise with the performance of those on the mediums as we head down towards turn number 6 as Ron Hard pulls all the way to the inside and then of course lifts off and just wants to cool that engine down a little bit more as we head into that next braking zone. And then out of turn 5 we go, and I did notice as well there Joris Krozen was on the back of Jake Benham but did make a slight mistake heading out of turn 7.
Well, I think now, if you're on this medium tyre strategy here, Nathan, you've got to go for it, haven't you? Because everyone is on the same strat bar Thomas Ronhaar. In fact, I can see Ronhaar being the only driver who's really, well, of course, he's going to be the only driver who really profits off the back of the strategy twist, because whilst all these drivers are fighting for medium tyre supremacy, obviously it's going to affect their position in terms of pulling away from the young Dutchman. If he just stays with them, he could gain a bountiful load of places if he can make the overcut work.
Certainly, and of course what we saw in Las Vegas when he went for that very, very bold strategy of once again being on that alternate strategy. Don't get me wrong, there was a lot more drivers on that alternate strategy, but Ron Har made it work and won by over 3 seconds, and that shows he's one of those drivers that he can also be put into a bit of an awkward position and make something work from it. As Jarno Opmeer now to the outside of Ruben Pedreño in towards turn 5, goes for the up and under on the exit, hasn't quite got the exit though over Pedreño and stays in 14th for now. And I think he might look to gain down towards turn 6, but Ron Har here in 16th on the back of his teammate will certainly be looking to make this work. And it's one of those where, because he's the only one on that strategy, if this works out, it could put him to the top spot here.
I think it could. I really do think if Thomas can make this work out, I mean, it's really the best news possible for him, with the very notion that everyone is within DRS right now, because he can just hug and get towed by all the drivers in front. I mean, Clapperbott doing him a favour, keeping him within DRS as well. I mean, just taking that one different step could make all the difference in this race.
Certainly, and of course, Ron Har we've seen starts from the back on many occasions in many different leagues. He always goes from the back and he always ends up in the top 10, and I think that just shows his skill and his pace in the race. It's just the only issue is he sometimes gets into a couple of incidents that he probably shouldn't do. But apart from that, he's an absolutely brilliant driver when it comes to the race pace and intelligence. As we're just making our way towards turn 1, and I'm not sure what I saw there. It seemed like there was something flying up in the air. I'm not sure if it was a piece of car or some polystyrene spawning out of absolutely nowhere. That was a bit of an odd one. I'm hoping nobody's got damage.
Well, it's been a theme, really, of today, where polystyrene has been flung up in the air from certainly what we saw in qualifying, and indeed a little bit already in the race. As now Rasmussen starts haunting the back of Barry Burremand. Plenty of cars fanning out now as they make their way down the long straight, heading down towards turn 6 through the chicane. Now this time they'll elevate their way through the 7th corner on this lap 7 of 29. And now coming out of turn 8, they'll then send it down through towards turns 9 and later turns 10. It's Otis Lawrence who leads the way, bidding to become a race winner once again for only the second time this season. Has also only mustered 2 podiums so far this campaign, despite netting together 4, now 5 pole positions this season. It has been a phenomenal campaign for young Otis in a sense of qualifying from a standpoint. He does hold the record this season for most poles taken this campaign, but I'm sure that's not the number he's chasing. He would much prefer go and land a potential blow for the PSGL PCF1 title, as many former F1 sim racing drivers have done in the past. As now Ron Hart and Otmir come together. That's because Otmir has come into the pits early here.
That's early, but that is a mega undercut here from Jarno Otmir, and we've seen in the past how crucial that undercut is, and if he can here get under the hards, get a nice out lap here for Otmir, this could put him into a very good position. It's a bit similar to what we saw last time out in Vegas, where he took that championship. He went very early into the pit lane. He was P9, P10 before he came out the pits. He was up into the top 4, top 5. So Otmir here, yet again, going for that very early undercut, and I think this, at least in the short term here, and over the next 10 laps, will work. But of course, he's got to hope that he can keep those tyres all the way to the end in a very good position, as we do see Ron Hart making a move on Ruben Pedreño, and has that crossover point hit? Is that why we saw Otmir go in? Because he now knows that Ron Hart on those hards could just play forward and start making some of those overtakes.
I have no doubt that that could be the reason, and now you might have noticed that Ron Hart has turned up the pace a little bit. He's ahead of Klaffenbach. He's already got ahead of Pedreño as well. He's hunting down Lucas Blakely. So this, as far as Jarno Otmir is concerned, is the right time to make the change. There's no other way of doing it. You must compete against your fellow Dutch counterparts at his own game. They're going to share the same compound. Of course, 7 laps between them in terms of tyre life. But now Thomas Ron Hart makes his way around the final corner, and there are other drivers responding. Freddie Rasmussen, Ulas Zildjian both coming in, as Ron Hart, a declaration of the pace on those hards now, goes fastest with a 1:26.470.
Of course, and through turn 14 and 15 now for Jarno Otmir. We'll see where he comes out compared to Freddie Rasmussen as we head out to the final corner. Otmir was then in 14th before the pit stops. Freddie Rasmussen was up in 4th. This is going to be very close. Once Otmir makes his way through the first corner, he's on the back of Freddie Rasmussen and Ulas Zildjian. The gap's going to be just over 2.5 seconds, but that gap before was a lot higher than 2.5 seconds, and your Otmir showing once again that undercut can really help your race. Even by 1 lap, he's probably gained a second on what he would have been back to Rasmussen and Zildjian.
Yeah, and the pace is on the hard tyres as well, because Otmir went purple in the middle and last sectors on that last lap. Ulas Zildjian, I'm sure, is going to try and utilise his expertise in trying to get past Freddie Rasmussen, or he might just utilise the toe, just remaining behind the Great Dane. As now Red Bull look to work together to try and undercut those further up. Now, does Otis Lawrence respond now this time? Because I'm sure he's going to have a few itchings on his mind. He's aware that others have boxed. He might have to respond here, and yes, he does. In comes the Welshman. Otis Lawrence into the pits for no question a move onto the hards.
Of course, and many others choosing to stay out in that DRS, whereas Otis thinks, no, I want to go in, and I don't want to be undercut here by Rasmussen and Zildjian, as they are within that DRS. They're going to be pulling each other along over the next few laps in this stint. And Otis, as you can see just for a moment there, Rasmussen heading out to the final corner, Otis heading under the tunnel, back up towards the exit of turns 2 and 3. Otmir goes fastest in the race of the 24.3. Once again showing that these hard tyres are now the quickest tyre, and this is going to be close.
I think it is. I think it's worked, though. Rasmussen now your net race leader. So there you go. Otis Lawrence has come out in behind Ulas Zildjian. That undercut is so powerful. And look at what it's done. Rasmussen now sits at the top of the shop, and Otmir is closing in on them. Holy twist here on lap 10 of 29. And what could this mean for the rest of the race? Of course, remember, Thomas Ron Hart went early on that hard strategy, started the race on the hards, going against the grain of everybody else. Otmir went against the grain of everybody in terms of an early pit stop. So now it's Rasmussen who leads, Ulas Zildjian in second, or we're talking from a net standpoint, with Otis Lawrence now net P3, Otmir, you figure, net P4.
Indeed, as we make our way through in towards the end of that final, the end of the middle sector, start of the final, as we see our leaders making their way out to the final sector, back down towards turn 1 for Butcher, as Hofland is into the pit lane for Aston Martin. I think there's another driver. It'll be Ruben Petrano for Williams, also into the pits, whereas Alfie Butcher, Barry Borman, and those are staying out. They will be looking just to get the offset compared to Rasmussen and Azildrim. They know they're going to come out behind, so they'd rather have the offset to fight with them and make their way through. So this is now a key moment for Butcher and Borman not to fight too often, just to keep pulling themselves along to give that offset so that when they pit they can fight and try and make their way past of Lawrence, Azildrim and Rasmussen. As Jarno Otmir now is within a second of Otis Lawrence. That is brilliant work there by Rebel to get Otmir back onto the back of the podium. He was what, 14th? He's now net 4th with a sight of 3rd.
And do you know what? Over the last lap, he was approximately 2.3 seconds faster than Otis Lawrence, Ulas Azildrim and Freddie Rasmussen, Nathan. That is remarkable, as now they're dueling together again. Rasmussen and Ulas Azildrim, Otis Lawrence very nearly coming together on the run through turn 6. And now Otis might chance his arm at a move. These two that came to blows in Australia, it led to a 2-race ban. They're going to go wheel to wheel again. Coming through turn 9, Ulas Azildrim on the inside. Back comes Otis, who's now looking to try and squash Azildrim now, the former race winner at China earlier this season, now coming under a desperate fight. Rasmussen gets pushed off, and Otis now still going wheel to wheel. Ulas refusing to put him over, now stays ahead of the Welshman. It is still Ulas Azildrim, Otis Lawrence. They are together, but no changes made. Rasmussen still your net race leader. Ulas still in 16th. Otis in 17th.
Indeed, and I think the reason why Otis wants to get that move done is we've seen in the past, Azildrim will not let anyone through. He defends very harshly, so Otis knows that his only way of getting to P1 is getting through on Azildrim and then having that one-on-one with Freddie and Rasmussen. And so Otis has to get this move done early. In towards turn 5, he backs out. He doesn't choose to go for that late send into turn 5. But of course, all that squabbling through in towards the final sector has brought Jarno Otmir right onto the back now of Otis Lawrence and Duncan Hoffman and Danny Bereshne. They're bringing that gap down to the 3.5 offset to Jarno Otmir. We could certainly have a very interesting next few laps once everybody else starts to close in and make moves for their own.
I do wonder whether how's Freddie's car? Did he sustain any damage after the potential contact between him and Otis Lawrence? Of course, Otis went very late on the brakes coming through into that chicane section, coming into turn 12. Ulas just running slightly wide of the apex there. That might offer an invitation here for Otis, who opts not to make a move this time around, just opting to stay behind the Turk as they now come through the final sector proper. Now this time Otis Lawrence now coming under fire from Jarno Otmir in behind him. Duncan Hoffland also joining the scrap as now we see 4 more cars come in. Istvan Pukki, Nicholas Longay, Jake Benham, as well as Lucas Blakely now in the pits, as well as they now fan out, coming down through the final corner and now look to begin their next lap, lap 13 of 29. Otis Lawrence.
Sorry, George, I'm going to say Longay has a 10-second penalty.
Oh, and Pedreño as well has got a penalty as well, so that's a heartbreaker for him. In fact, as I'm looking at it on paper, yeah, stop-go penalty here for Nicholas Longay, and it's a penalty for Ruben Pedreño at the same time. Ulas Azildrim on the tail, still of Rasmussen. Otis Lawrence now hovering all over the back of him. Jarno Otmir coming into the mix. The heat is going to be turned up now in the second half of this race, where the stint has been put to bed, at least the first one. Pukki now going wheel to wheel with Jake Benham on the run down through towards turn 6 and 7 as well. Benham with the inside line, as now Pukki looks to leave it late. The 2 former teammates now dicing it out, pushes him wide of the apex, and now they're wheel to wheel on the run out of turn 8. Pukki now going to take the long route around, but Benham with the better line in the initial, able to protect his place in P17.
Certainly does a nice move there from Jake Benham up to 17th place. Net P8 as it currently stands, as we do see Butcher and Burman heading to the pit lane. So the 2 leaders head in. Joris Krozen as well. Tom Manley also heading into the pit lane. Hardy too. Wilson Hughes and Ishmael Fassi though stay out. Of course, along with Thomas Ronha, who now takes the lead of the race. He started on the hards. Nobody else did. He's got a 5-second gap back to Tycho Hardy. His gap back to Freddie Rasmussen, we'll see shortly. It's around 10 seconds currently. So once he pits, he's got probably, 11 seconds to make up here, maybe 12. That's going to be hard. But his offset and being on the medium tyres, he'll absolutely dice at least through those at the back 10.
Well, so come out of turn 5 now once more. Still your net race leader is Freddie Rasmussen, but now he's got quite the train. Starting to form up in behind, and they've all got DRS all the way down to Julian Klaffenbach in P17. But the one driver, probably the outlier in all this, is Jana Watmere on the 6th lap at old hard tyres. A lap older than Freddie Rasmussen and Ulas Zildrim. 2 laps older than Otis Lawrence, who's got a little bit of room to play with, coming through towards the latter stages of this race. As now we see as well Ismail Fassi moving past Wilson Hughes over P3. And now hovering all over the back of Tycho Hardy is now Barry Burman tries the outside line here on Ruben Pedreño, the Iranian, and twice a race winner at this circuit, now moves up into 12th place. And now half a second behind Alfie Butcher, as now they all start to settle down and get ready for what I'm sure will be an almighty final scuffle. And Rasmussen is closing by the moment onto the back of Wilson Hughes, who is yet to pit. Your top 4 still yet to box, and as I say that, in comes Wilson Hughes.
And I don't think that Ismail Fassi and Tycho Hardy are going to get that involved with our net race leaders, but of course it could definitely halt the progress of Rasmussen trying to bring that gap down to Thomas Ronhaar. I think that's his only aim at the moment. Keep that gap between Ronhaar as low as possible so that Ronhaar has more work to do once he goes in and boxes for a set of the medium tyres, as we do see Duncan Hoffman closing in on the back of Jana Watmere as Alfie Butcher and Danny Bergevin go side by side out of turn 5, and a brilliant move, and Butcher up into 9th place, and once again showing that offset is working, as we do see Hoffman closing on Watmere, but I don't think we'll be going for the send this time around.
Yeah, but there might be a send elsewhere though, because in comes Pedreño and Longuet. And Longuet also, remember, these two have a penalty after their pit stops that they had before, where they're going to come out of turn 7 and they're going to be side by side again. Nicholas Longuet now looking to ferry his way up the inside, coming through towards turn 9 in the mean green Aston Martin machine. He'll leave it late on the brakes. Pedreño running out wide. Surely that's going to cost him time. To Jake Benham as well further back, who's going to try and launch himself into the ascendancy as well. Front right meets rear left as well. Blocking off does Nicholas Longuet as they come through the final sector. Pedreño tries again. Benham up the inside coming through out of turn 11, turn 12, later turn 13 and 14, and they're still side by side again, and it's Istvan Pukki who moves ahead of Pedreño, who loses 2 and 3, or shall I say 3 places as a consequence.
And Hoffman now all over the rear of Jana Watmere. He's got so much more pace than the Red Bull. He was actually on the outside of Watmere heading into the final corner, but couldn't quite get the move done. And that has now brought Alfie Butcher right onto the rear of the Aston Martin as they head down to turn 5. To the outside goes Butcher, looking to make the move ahead of Duncan Hoffman, who's also looking to try and get ahead of Jana Watmere as Barry Burman makes a move on Danny Bergevin. He moves up into 8th place, and all these cars now on that big offset are looking to push forward and make moves. This could get dicey down towards turn 6 here.
Well, it's going to get really dicey now. Jana Watmere going full defensive. He knows he's going to have his defensive shields up because he has got a series of cars on much fresher tyres queuing up behind, including 2-time race winner around this circuit here in PSGL, Barry Burman, who's only got 2 laps applied on his tyres. Very similar tyre life to what Alfie Butcher currently has as well, as they come side by side, and Duncan Hoffland has moved past Jana Watmere and into P5. Butcher might yet choose to do the same. He's going to go the long way around the outside as he comes into turn 12, and the Butcher lays down the carving knife upon our champion Jana Watmere and strips P6 from his fingertips.
That move from Duncan Hoffland was absolutely insane. He went for the dummy on Watmere, pretended to go to the inside, darted back to the outside, and Watmere then went really deep into turn 9 as Barry Burman makes the moves. Watmere is falling back in the field. We said at the first point, the first 10 laps of that stint, it'll work well for Watmere. But then as soon as those start to pit in and those on 5, 4, 3-lap old tyres start to push through, Watmere is going to be a sitting duck, as now here comes Danny Bergevin into turn 5 up the inside. He's going to look to make the move and jump up into 8th. On the exit he gets a better run, and Watmere now down to P9. And if you think of how much Otme's been dumped by, what's going to happen to Lawrence, Zildrim and Rasmussen once we see Alfie Butcher get onto the back of them?
Otmere in absolute free fall. Nicholas Longuet also moving up in the 9th as a consequence as well. Now Jake Benham, Otmere's former teammate, coming into this. We've got a massive mashup here coming through turn 6 and later turn 7. Pukki Krozen, part of this. Pedreño as well. Pukki now around the outside of Julian Klaffenbach, who still leads this quartet on the run down, and make that a 5-piece as they head down into turn 9. Outside line and car off. That's Blakely. Lucas Blakely is spun. Coming up through turn 9 and has seen himself drop down to 17th as an inside move there from Pookie. He switched back against Klappenbach, coming through the final sector in a bid to try and strip that P12 away from him, and he's made it work. Great move from Istvan Pookie.
Certainly is. Crozen goes up the inside of Julian Klappenbach, gets a move done. Further ahead, Jake Benham makes a move ahead of Jarno Otmir, and Barry Burman all over the rear of Alfie Butcher, who's also tailing the back of Duncan Hoffland, who wants to get ahead of Otis Lawrence. Otis now needs to get that move done on Ulashes Ilgrim if he wants to hope and stay in P3 as Tom Manley retires in the pit lane. That's his season done and dusted, as Butcher now looking to go ahead of Hoffland, can't do so. Further behind, Nicholas Longay looking to get ahead of Danny Barishne, side by side on the exit of the corner, and they'll head down towards turn 6 side by side, but I think that's going to be moved done for Longay. Never mind, Barishne's pulled back ahead.
Yeah, he's managed to hold on, at least for now. I just want to say as well, the battery that Barry Burman is sustaining at the moment is unbelievable. As now Berejne and Longay continue their scuffle. Coming out of turn 6. Next up, they'll move around turn 8, and they're going to continue to go wheel to wheel. Berejne somehow, some way, keeping this Frenchman. Oh my goodness me, they very nearly made contact, and I think they did. They very nearly charged into the barrier. Longay now around the outside, losing out again to Berejne, who holds on by the skin of his teeth, and he's on the tail now of Barry Burman as they come through the final sector. Can't unlock the Iranian, but as I said, Barry has really saved that ERS battery.
He certainly has, and I was going to say then for a moment, obviously Berejne and Longay nearly made contact at turn 9, but they did make contact with Burman at turn number 6 and nearly sent Barry Burman spinning round, as we do see Ron Hart in the pit lane. So now he'll be looking to charge forward on the medium tyres as up the inside goes Longay into turn 1 on Jake Benham. What a move there from Nicholas Longay, a very unorthodox position, makes the move and back into P8 for Longay as Blakely unfortunately retires in the pit lane, and that's also his season done as Benham again to the outside. Longay then has to force himself to the inside and send it late. Out of turn 5 they go, they're still side by side. What a race we have so far here, George, as Benham once again back ahead of Nicholas Longay.
A stunning swan song to what has been an extraordinary campaign if you're a Red Bull fan. Freddie Rasmussen now leads this race, but he has got Ulashes Ilgrim in his back pocket, waiting, gnawing, looking for an opportunity to win here at Abu Dhabi for the first time in his history. Of course, has already taken a win this campaign. That came all the way back in Shanghai in China when he went from lights to flag. It really has been a coming-of-age season for Ulashes Ilgrim, freshly back after his 2-race ban that he shared with Otis Lawrence as well. And he currently sits in 3rd as well, chasing yet another podium, and what would be podium number, at this stage, podium number 3, if he obtains this one, Otis Lawrence. Duncan Hoffland also having a fantastic race down in 4th, but the tyre offset is going to be massive as now Joris Crozen moves past Jarno Otmir, and it looks like Otmir is pit-bound here.
He certainly is, and the gap between Ron Hart and, well, was Otmir is absolutely insane. It went from 4 seconds down to 2.5 within 2 sectors. Ron Hart is flying on those brand new medium tyres. Once he gets up to the pack, he'll be looking to carve his way through. Into turn 5 we go. Burman goes for a send on Alfie Butcher, who's looking to try and get ahead of Duncan Hoffland. Once again, he can't quite do so. Burman has a lot more battery here than Butcher to use as they head back down towards turn 6. However, I don't think Burman's quite going to look for the move. Same goes for Butcher. He's on the back of Hoffland. He goes to the inside, looks to find the send into the braking zone. Hoffland taps the back of Lawrence. To the outside goes Butcher. It's close to contact on the exit. They're side by side, and Butcher gets the move done.
He certainly does. Great move there from Alfie Butcher, and now it's going to be Barry Burman who's going to look to follow the McLaren driver through. Hoffland under pressure. Those tyres failing him now here in this late stint. And Burman moves his way through now past Duncan Hoffland into P5. And that goes to show 3 laps difference between the 2 tyre compounds. 2 hard sets of tyres, but 3 laps between them, allowing Barry Burman to move through along with Alfie Butcher. They now move up to P4 and P5, and now all over the back of Otis Lawrence, and the tyre offset enlarges even more as we meet the top 3 as they now cross the line to begin lap 21 of 29. 8 laps to go until the end of PSGL season 40.
And well, Ron Hart was 1.1 seconds back turn one. He's within a tenth of Ruben Pedreño. He's absolutely flying and will be looking to make his first move on the medium tyres on lap 21. To the outside of Pedreño he goes. And Ruben looks like an F2 car there compared to Thomas Ronhart as he makes a move. And on the exit there, Benham and Berejne side by side, a slight bit of contact as they head down towards turn 6. And Berejne gets that one done into P7, goes the Alpine. Unless Benham can fight back into turn 6, he does. He goes late on the brakes to try and get that move back again. Berejne's got the inside at turn 7. They go side by side. Contact again. Benham off the road. Rejoins back behind. Denny Berejne. Joris Kroes and takes a penalty.
Yeah, it's a furious fight here. They're 3 wide further back. Ronhart now looking to dance his way inside the top 10 and managing to overtake 2 cars in one single corner. Thomas Ronhart on the medium tyres now, flexing his almighty slick tyre muscles here on the yellow wall tyre, heading down now in towards sector 3. A huge scuffle. Kroes and Pookie going at it as well in sector 3 this time. It's a huge mess here on lap 21, but Ronhart now in the points and hunting down Nicolas Longuet.
To the outside goes Benham on towards Berejne into the final corner, but can't find the move. That was very, very audacious there from Benham, but has to slot back into P8 for now as we head into turn 1. Ronhart all over the rear of Nicolas Longuet. Nearly went for a move into turn 2, but of course you can't make a move there. It's such a tight, fast section as we head back down towards turn 5. You're not quite sure who to keep an eye on as everybody is looking for a move as Longuet goes up the inside of Jake Benham. And this is exactly what Ronhart wants as both of them make contact. And Ronhart goes through into P8 for Thomas Ronhart.
Brilliant move there from Thomas Ronhart, wheel to wheel now with Jake Benham. Benham now slotting in behind Ronhart this time as Longuet looks to ferry himself back, swapping all over the back of Jake Benham's McLaren. Benham goes late, coming through turn 6, but nothing will stop this relentless young Dutchman, Thomas Ronhart, the Kickstarter driver. The only driver on the medium compound of tyre, now on the tail of Danny Berejne. He's past Danny Berejne and into P7, 7th heaven here for Thomas Ronhart.
I think Berejne let him through there. I don't think there was much point in the Alpine fighting Ronhart because the offset and the pace, considering he's also on a softer tyre, means the advantage is insane here for Ronhart. Ismail Fassi has been disqualified for being parked in a dangerous location. I presume that must be an issue once again for Ismail Fassi. Big shame for him. It's not been his best race at all. Of course, had issues at the start with his connection, and there will not be continuing on in this race as Alfie Butcher all over the back of Otis Lawrence into turn 1. And this is exactly what Thomas Ronhart wants. He wants everybody close together, battling side by side so he can carve his way through. Next on the list will be Duncan Hoffland.
Well, now turn 5 awaits. Ronhart on the move again, taking down his fellow countryman, Duncan Hoffland. And it's going to be surely oh so simple, oh so easy here for Ronhart on those reasonably fresh medium tyres that have seen plenty of overtaking action since he's now rejoined the circuit, marching through the field and now past Duncan Hoffland this time. Next on his list will be Barry Burremand. They're all sitting ducks against this young man who is still waiting to become a PSGL PCF1 champion, and he won't win it this year. Jana Wattmir is, of course, your champion for an 8th time, but Ronhart sowing the seeds for a brand new F1 Sim Racing World Championship season and is now hovering all over the back of his season 32-33 nemesis, Barry Burremand, who took the title from the clutches of Thomas Ronhart in the closing stages of that season. He looks around the outside, but no move just yet. But you get a feeling it is waiting to happen.
It certainly is as they head through 14 and 15. Of course, leading the train is Rasmussen with Zildrim, Lawrence, Butcher and Burremand as well down to P5. And Ronhart, he's just waiting. He's eyeing up every corner, setting it up, ready to make a move. Down to turn 1 we go. Ronhart's on the outside of Barry Burremand. These two have came close to contact on many occasions before, and they make contact.
Brilliant. Well, I don't know what to say. Closely, very closely, making their way into the barrier. Barry had next to no room on his outside, and Ronhart, who obviously felt he was deserving of the rim, he's very fortunate not to pick up in-plate damage, moves to the inside now at turn 5. Barry trying to hold his own now as well as they make their way out of the turn 5 apex, now down the long straight. Surely Ronhart should get this done just based on tyre discrepancy alone, and yes he does. And now next up will be Alfie Butcher. He needs to get this move done ASAP in his mind. A little bit of contact. Oh my goodness me, Thomas, that might have been a little bit too much there, sir. into the back of Alfie Butcher, but he'll have his chance again on the run down through towards turn 9.
Certainly, as we head back into the ninth corner for the 24th time, Ron Haar all over the back of Alfie Butcher. And you can just see the pace difference here for Ron Haar compared to everybody else. Of course, Burman has been dispatched, and now Ron Haar will be looking to make the move on Butcher, who's also looking to close in for a podium himself on the back of Otis Lawrence. Of course, up at the front, it's been Rasmussen and Azildrim all race long pretty, as well as Otis Lawrence sitting in third as we make our way through it towards 15 and 16 once again to begin lap 25 of 29. There'll be 4 to go and 4 positions for Ron Haar to make if he wants to go back to back here to end off the championship.
Well, 4 laps of magic to bring you folks. And of course, we're going to be witnessing, I think, some furious fighting out there to decide our podium places. It is Freddie Rasmussen who leads at the moment. Jake Benham now gets a 3-second time penalty. In comes now Thomas Ron Haar with another look on the back of Butcher once again. And obviously, I think at the same time as gaining places, he needs to be cautious here, Nathan, of saving that tyre wear. As now we see once again Barry filtering to the outside. As now we see also at the same time Butcher getting closer to the back of Otis Lawrence, but no opportunities thus far as now Benham once again goes on the attack. And again, it's him and Berejnay on now, continuing their fight and their tussle. He's past Nicholas Longay as well, Jake Benham, and Joris Kroesen past Julian Klaffenbach.
There was a massive tussle back down at turn 6. Longay locked up and went sideways. Benham went really deep, and Klaffenbach got forced off at the exit of the chicane. So it was absolute pandemonium there at turn 6. Tycho Hardy is now looking to score his first points of the season. Has been here twice before, as we do see now Alfie Butcher looking to go through and get into third, but not quite close enough as Thomas Ron Haar. Every time we see him here, George, into any corner, he's pretty much touching the rear of that McLaren.
Yeah, I think he's just, honestly, he's just trying to hold on, I think, to the tyre life at the moment, Thomas Ron Haar. He knows it's going to come true towards the end of the race, and obviously it's all about conservation. Leave it till the very last minute. Do not overstay your welcome on this compound of tyre. Just try and hold on to it, linger for a moment. The crucial moments will be these final few laps. And now chasing yet another race win, his third of the season. Ron Haar will now move up the inside of Alfie Butcher and indeed move up into fourth. Great move from Thomas Ron Haar now, and he's on the tail of Otis Lawrence, who I'm sure is not going to give an inch.
He certainly won't. As they head down to turn 6, Otis takes the inside line, just getting out of that dirty air of Ulash Azildrim is what's happened further behind.
Well, Otis just had a bit of a sideways moment there. I thought he was going to lose the car for just 2 seconds. It was literally near enough sideways coming through turn 6. So now charged down through towards turn 9, and it's still Rasmussen who leads the way. Has really done a cracking job on those hard tyres, and again another twitch from Otis Lawrence. I think those tyres are suffering here on Lawrence's car here.
They certainly are, as Ron Haar there went to the outside, had to back out, and if it's struggling here for Otis Lawrence, never mind what Ulash Azildrim and Rasmussen will be thinking once Ron Haar inevitably gets behind those two as we head into the penultimate corners once again to begin lap 27 of 29. It's Rasmussen, Azildrim, Lawrence. Of course, Azildrim and Lawrence came back from a 2-race ban for their proceedings back in Australia, but they've still got a charge in Ron Haar behind them, who will be looking to try and take at least a podium. If not, we'll be looking for that victory.
Yeah, well, inside 0.2 of a second on the back of Otis Lawrence. Thomas Ron Haar will, I'm sure, have no qualms about making the move. Looks to the outside now as they come down through towards turn 5, but nothing doing just yet. Again, the patience on offer here from the Dutchman. He knows his time will come. We're 2 laps away from the closing stages of this PSGL Season 40 contest here in PCF1, and again Otis just trying to fan out, trying to break the toe here for Thomas Ron Haar, but he knows it's going to come true again, coming in towards turn 8 and then in towards turn 9. Rasmussen still with the lead as now they ferry their way down through towards the next left-hander. The DRS now open. Ron Haar still with no avenue for the move just yet, but waiting poised on the back of the Welshman. Of course, the next lap will be the penultimate lap of the race, and Rasmussen carting them through now the final sector proper, and I get the feeling it will be the next lap where things are turned up to 11 here at Abu Dhabi.
Of course, the question is, has Ron Haar potentially burned that battery too early? Because Azildrim and Rasmussen nearly full on battery. Lawrence about half, Thomas Ronha about 38%, as I can read on his wheel, heading out to the final corner. Has he potentially burned that battery too early as we begin the penultimate lap of the race? Further behind, Burman looking to still get ahead of Alfie Butcher. They've been side by side many times, and Burman still failing to get that move complete and finish in the top 5. Remember, he has never finished off the podium around Abu Dhabi in PCF 1-2 victories and a podium in the past. Today could be that day where he loses that streak, because Ron Hart up the inside of Lawrence has got a brilliant run out of turn 5. Can he make the move down to turn 6 to get himself onto that podium?
Well, we'll soon find out. On the tail now, the Alpine. Could not quite find the answer coming out of turn 5, but he might find it coming through turn 6 if he goes late on the brakes. I get the feeling, though, that he's not going to be close enough to find it. Jarno Opmeer also moving back inside the top 10, managing to overtake Tycho Hardy, Julian Klaffenbach in free fall as well. But here comes Ronha once again. Now, surely he's got to pull the plug on the Alpine's run here. Needs to get it done inside this third sector to tee up a potential contest against Freddie Rasmussen and Jonas Zilder. More of those medium tyres seen better days already. Has he run out of grip? Is there anything left to challenge the front three? I'm not quite sure. Benham and Opmeer going at it as well over P9 and 10. Rasmussen, though, still your race leader and unchallenged so far, unless Ulas has anything to say about it, as we now end the penultimate lap and head round onto the final lap.
Certainly, and of course I've been proved wrong in the chat. Opmeer did go for that 2-stop. I said he wouldn't, but he certainly has, and he's now up into P9, charging forward. If he had another 5 laps, he could be where Ron Har is potentially, because he's flying on those newer hard tyres. But of course it's half a lap to go here. Rasmussen leads. I don't think there'll be any challenge from Azildrim. Same for Lawrence on the back of Azildrim, and I don't think there's much now that Thomas Ron Har could do. He used those tyres for 7 laps of attacking. The past 3, he can't get anywhere on those mediums, and maybe he warned them a little bit too early, or potentially there's just not enough wear left in general on those medium tyres.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to have to be... I think he's just going to have to try and hold on here. Thomas Ron Har at the moment, 10 laps on those mediums. It seems like now their effectiveness has long surpassed, because now it's a straight fist fight between Jonas Zilderim and Freddie Rasmussen, though no changes coming through turn 9. Rasmussen with more than enough to meet Zilderim at every turn so far. Alfie Butcher coming straight into this fight, though, once again on the tail of Thomas Ron Har, but at the end of what has been a truly remarkable season where Red Bull have been dominant. Really, when you look at the numbers, Rasmussen will now break 100 points and will win a 5th race of the season here in Season 40. Rasmussen wins again here in PSGL, beating Jonas Zilderim, and Thomas Ron Har lays claim to 3rd place.
Just for reference there, into the final quarter, Otis Lawrence went really deep, and Ron Har just flew past him. What a move from Thomas Ron Har, what a mistake from Otis Lawrence. That P3 was pretty much wrapped up for him heading into the final corner.
Yeah, miraculous performance, great effort at the final last chance of asking there from Thomas Ron Har, managing to ferry his way into 3rd, beating Otis Lawrence. But it's Freddie Rasmussen and Red Bull. They now cement in place their 7th win as a team this season. And in total, Freddie capturing his 5th of the campaign. A remarkable display from Freddie Rasmussen, finishing in front and ahead, of course, of Thomas Ron Har, who finished in 3rd place. Jonas Zilderim returns to the podium. A stunning drive, and I've got to give credit where credit's due to Jarno Opmeer, managing to make a 2-stop strategy work to ferry his way P9 at the end of play. An astonishing performance from the Flying Dutchman, and elsewhere some good results also. But at the end of the season, we can now, of course, put a stamp on that. It doesn't look like we're going to get the results again. I don't know why we never get them. I mean, honestly, it's absolutely bizarre. But the season now has been brought to a close. I don't think we're going to see results. Are we? No, we're not. There we are, no results.
I can read through them. I've got them on my phone. I managed to catch them at the last second.
Well, no, it's okay. It doesn't matter anyway. The season's over. Your champion, obviously, Jarno Opmeer. Of course, that was decided before we went racing here at Yas Marina, but credit has to go to Red Bull's own Freddie Rasmussen as well. Teams champions as a unit as well. 7 wins between both drivers A 5th win as well going Rasmussen's way, and his 6th podium of the season as well. Congratulations to Freddie Rasmussen. Ulas Yildirim on his return netted together yet another podium visit, only his 2nd of the campaign. The only other one was his victory at China, unbelievably. Congratulations to Ulas Yildirim, and of course Thomas Ronhaar netting together his 5th podium also of the campaign. The medium tyres just did not quite work out enough for the race victory, Nathan.
Certainly, and I think once again a brilliant race, and unfortunately we saw to the end there that dirty air really got in the way of many drivers looking to push forward and make those moves. Thomas Ronhaar got halted at P4 as well, you could say, with in the first part of the stint, Otis Lawrence, who had that better tyre than Rasmussen and Yildirim, but couldn't quite find the move for 2nd place. And then of course you had the likes of Butcher and Burroman also looking to push forward and couldn't quite find those moves. But of course then that can also, you can say hats off to those defending those positions. It was a really good race towards the end, of course. Otmir and Ronhaar both trying something different. I suppose they worked out in the end. Of course, Ronhaar got the podium. Otmir got back up into the top 10. So either way, brilliant race from those two, and a brilliant way to end off what has been a very up and down season here in PSGL PCF1.
Well, I can tell you that Thomas Ronhaar is waiting for an interview in the commentary box. We're going to bring him in. Thomas Ronhaar back on the podium once again, 3rd week running. Thomas, not a bad way to end the season. 2 wins and a 3rd place. And you almost made the alternate strategy work, and especially seeing as you were the only one who started on the hard tyres.
Yeah, I think it was quite a hectic race. Had to get through quite a lot of cars to be able to be in a good position towards the end. All started in quali, unfortunately. I made 2 mistakes in Q2. I think we didn't quite have the pace for pole today, but we should have definitely been in the top 5 for sure in qualifying, which definitely would have helped the race a lot more. But nevertheless, I think our race execution has been brilliant recently. And I think us being the only one on the hard tyres and still making it work, I think goes to show my, and not only my, but also the team's pace in general in race is very, very strong recently. So yeah, making a lot of different strategies work than people might think that not work. Maybe it was an advantage that I was the only one on hards. Maybe it wasn't, but yeah, I think it also helped that I think Freddie was slowing down the pack quite a lot at the start of the hard stint, because I was barely losing any time on my old hard tyres. So yeah, I managed to get in the pack within, I think it wasn't even 2 laps before I caught the back of Julian. And then yeah, the freshness of the tyres, I think it was the same in WR. Yeah, you had to make the right routes at the right time. And then yeah, really happy with a 3rd podium in a row. Would have been lovely to get a 3rd win, but wasn't quite meant to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the way it goes, isn't it? I mean, you win some, you lose some. I mean, towards the end, was it the case that there just wasn't anything left in those mediums, that you couldn't make those crucial moves for the remaining 3 spots for the podium? Of course, eventually you did get the last, you know, the 3rd place one from Otis.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a gift from Otis. I tried to go for a bit of...
You ran wide, right?
Well, I tried to caught him off guard by going for a fake move. Think he fell for it. I'm not sure. I'll have to watch back. But yeah, it's a gift from Otis, which I'll happily take. Yeah, it was going to be P4. Yeah, the issue was the whole race. The people might not be familiar with the stuff in the game, but the engine temp is through the roof when you're behind some cars, especially when it's a hot track like Abu Dhabi, for example. Our engines were like 20-25 degrees so at the highest above the idle range, which slows you down quite drastically in the train. I think that probably helped me at the start of the medium stint to get through a lot of cars very quickly. But then of course when I was in the pack for quite some time, stuck by an Otis for quite a while, I couldn't quite get the move done. So yeah, I had to try it in the corners, try to be patient, and yeah, paid off in the end.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was super. I'm going to throw it over to Nathan now for a question.
Certainly, of course, Ronhaar, welcome in, of course, great on that podium P3 in the end. Starting in 20th on those hard tyres, what was you expecting in terms of pushing forward? Did you expect everybody else to be on the mediums, or was you always expected to be the only one on that alternate strategy?
I was expecting at least a few hard runners, I'll be honest. I did know medium hard was going to be the strategy that the most people up front will be doing. But I thought at the back, at least 2 or 3 guys would be on the hard tire, but no, it turned out to be a 19 versus 1, fortunately. Yeah, did expect a few people to try that out. Yeah, as you saw towards the end, it wasn't a mega strategy to be, let's say, below top 15 and start on mediums, because you just can't make those positions up unless you go like very, very late. The likes of Isma, for example, he went very late. I think he also disconnected at some point from the race. I'm not really sure if that was the case. Yeah, he was right behind me when I came out the box. He stayed with me until I caught the pack, and then I think he still made quite a few moves. So yeah, it wasn't a bad strategy. I think I just made it work nearly to perfection again. I think if Freddy was going a bit quicker in the first stint to, let's say, just run his normal pace, I think it would have been a lot more difficult for myself. But yeah, like I said, I think we executed perfectly, and yeah, very happy.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to ask as well, not Nathan, sorry, Thomas, just to ask about what happened between both you and Barry, where things got very tight coming into turn 1. Can you give us your insight? Are you aware of the move or the moment that I'm referring to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was quite a bit of teasing going on. I think Barry's internet wasn't, let's say, the best. I was alongside him for at least half a car. I wasn't really going to try and go for a move. I was trying to actually go for a switchback. But then, yeah, I think because of his lag, once you touch each other with this game, it's just, yeah, it's going to be all over the place. So, yeah, I was right up against the wall, the whole of the entry, and tried to go for a switchback. Yeah, for some reason I got a touch, and then my whole car unsettled instantly. Yeah, I think nothing happened in terms of getting damaged, so there was no real harm done there. So yeah, just a bit unfortunate, I think, with the game playing out.
Well, regardless, you ended the season on a high, a 3rd sequential podium as well at the same time here, Thomas, and your 5th of the season, 2 wins as well, Mustard, not to mention 2 pole positions as well. Of course, it's going to be a long road until we're back league racing here at PSGL, but we wish you all the very best in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship in your bid to win the championship for a first time.
Thank you. I'll try my best. Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thomas Ronhar, everybody. Now, we don't have any drivers joining us for a quick chat, but we are going to bring in, just to say sayonara to season 40, Connor McDonough is going to join us as well. Fingers crossed he is joining us now, I think, as we speak.
Hello.
Yes, he is. Connor, welcome. I mean, we've just concluded what has been yet another incredible season, our 9th PCF1 campaign in total. And I must say, Red Bull domination. Obviously, we have seen some other winners crop up, some great new young drivers like Angelo D'Ortenzio. Tycho Hardy got his first points of the season as well today at the same time, so great effort on his part. But yeah, it's not been a bad season, Connor.
No, I mean, like I said, I just wanted to join to say a few words. Thanks to obviously UK, a world-class commentary team, makes my life a lot easier. But yeah, it's been another great season, like you say, our 9th season now. I think it's just very humbling that after all this time, all the esports teams, all the drivers still back us, still come to us, and yeah, we just put on a great show for everyone. The game, isn't that popular, it's not that great, but I think tonight probably was the best race of the season in terms of action. So yeah, very thankful and grateful, and yeah, just very happy with how it's gone.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic, hasn't it? And like you said, there have been inherent challenges on the game. Of course, there's been a lot of talk about the dirty air effect. Obviously, we've heard from Jarno on countless occasions, and I know that he's been very vocal in the drivers' chats of late regarding it as well. Obviously, there's still going to be a very phenomenal future ahead for PSGL as always. I think probably the biggest victory is Angelo D'Ortenzio moving up from PSGL PCF2 Championship glory to now becoming a driver in PCF1.
Yeah, I'm not sure there was a bit of lag on my end, so I apologise. But just, yeah, quickly, I think it's just great that the PSGL system works. We are the grassroots of sim racing, and yeah, I'm glad for Angelo. So I don't know if I'm lagging or not, but yeah, I think PSGL is doing its job, and it's exciting.
It's all good. So what's been your biggest highlight, Connor? Just quickly.
I mean, I think the Silverstone drama with the Jarno was a bit of a highlight. I think that'll be remembered for many years. I think like the backlash and just the whole community was involved. It wasn't just league racers, it wasn't just sim racing fans, it was everyone. Everyone was getting involved. So I said the Jarno pit lane, I think it was a moment of genius, but I think we were still right to punish it. So I'd say that's probably the I remember that for probably 5, 10, maybe more, many years, to be honest.
Well, I'm gonna let you say a few words to the public. Is there anything you want to say to the public?
No, just again, big thanks for your support. I think we are the biggest league around, and it's all down to you guys. It's all down to the fans, the volunteers, the commentators, the streamers, everyone involved. So yeah, a big thank you, and hopefully we're back for 26, because you just never know what's going to happen, but hopefully we'll have another season or two in the near future.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on, everybody. Connor, of course, everyone, leader, our Lord and Saviour of PSGL PCF1. But folks, that brings an end to another PSGL season. It has been a phenomenal one as well. Connor, of course, just laying down his thoughts. I want to say it's been an absolute privilege bringing all the action to you. We will, of course, be back one day, but it will be on F1 26, probably around about June, July. But stay tuned in to all the social medias as well. It has been an incredible campaign. I have to say it's been a furious fight right through, from turbulence involving pit lane victories, at the same time double race bans as well. We've had it all, but our eventual champions were Red Bull and of course Jarno Watmere for a record 8th time, setting himself apart from every single driver in history and becoming an 8-time champion in PSGL. Obviously, Nathan, any thoughts for the day on your part?
I just want to say a big thanks to yourself, George, and of course TK for letting me jump into... No, yourself, Connor, and TK, there we go, for letting me jump into the commentary box and be part of the action here for PC F1 in Season 40. It's been a brilliant season, watching or commentating. I'm sure many of the fans as well have enjoyed this season of action. Of course, it's going to be sad that we're going to be gone for nearly a year, but when we're back, I'm sure we'll be back ready for another brilliant season of racing.
Yeah, of course, we're all going to be going into hibernation now. Unfortunately, not Connor, because he has got so many other tiers and the 2 consoles themselves actually to be worried about PC and PlayStation. So plenty still going on at PSGL, even despite PCF1 not functioning. And don't forget, E-Series will still be ongoing as well. In terms of social media, like I said, check out PSGL at Premier SimGL on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. If you've been tuned in on YouTube, please leave a like and also subscribe if you're watching on Twitch as well, a relatively recent new platform for us. Please make sure you leave a follow as well. Nathan, where can they find you on socials?
You can find me over on Twitter at RichieF1 with the I's replaced with ones, over on TikTok at NathanRichards1, and then Instagram over at NathanRichards33.
Yeah, and if you want to check me out as well, folks, if you enjoyed the commentary, please make sure you check out at George Morgan TV as well on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. It's all the same. It doesn't change. Connor, I'll give you a chance to plug yours.
Yeah, just follow Premier SimGL. I think that's all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah.
Premier SimGL.
He's all
on
X. You're a professional, Connor. You're a professional. Love it. But yes, folks, it has been a downright privilege. A long road since season 27. We're now going to take a small hiatus, but we'll see you in a year or so for F1 26. But from all of us here at PSGL, it's goodbye. PSGL is brought to you by Sim Racing Setups. Get your pro setups, unlock extra performance with the Pro F1 25 car setups created by the drivers in PSGL. Esports and stable setups for every track, quali, race and wet setups, optimal race strategies, free meta setup updates, as well as created by drivers racing in PSGL, pro support and compatible with Xbox, PlayStation and PC. All setups just $49.99. Get them from simracingsetup.com and use code PSGL for a 5% discount. See you on track.